Nestled on the western edge of Port Phillip Bay, an hour and a half's drive from the deadly intrigues of Melbourne, lies Gateway City, the hub of the region, G-Town. For the last 4 decades, an uneasy peace has existed between the Anarchs and Camarilla in G-Town, their borders meeting on Bruce Street in the very centre of the city. The two sects divide the domain neatly in two. The native Anarchs, consolidated in the industrial north, have learned to tolerate Prince Aveline and her Camarilla invaders, and she in turn grants all Anarchs the right to hunt and conduct business in her waterfront domain. Anarch rabble-rousers and Camarilla traditionalists each afford their counterparts a reluctant respect. Until now. Word from Melbourne has reached the kindred of G-Town. Prince Squizzy wages a war on 3 fronts against a newly reorganised Anarch faction, Sabbat infiltrators, and the onslaught of the Second Inquisition. As refugees from both sects flood into Gateway to escape the oncoming chaos, local tensions flare, and the truce that has maintained peace since 1983 will be pushed to its limits. Welcome to Lords of G-Town, a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition actual play podcast presented by DM Fiat Podcast, with music by Kevin MacLeod, White Bat Audio, Ivan Duch, and Jaxius Music. Now, as the sun sets on the city and the blood stirs, let's see what horrors the kindred face this night. Welcome back, everyone, to the city by the bay. A singular point of neon light on the edge of the seemingly endless, inky black abyss that is Cowie's Bay, and the terrible secrets forgotten for millennia that lie within. You're dealing with some big secrets tonight. You're going to decide what is to become of Flick. Small child. 7 years old. Kidnapped and subjected to the embrace by a vampire known only as Andrea. A vampire wearing clothing from the olden days and a crucifix displayed upside down. You know who orchestrated Flick's embrace. What's more curious is the circumstances of the embrace itself, for Flick was not embraced by Andrea. Functionally, Flick was embraced by Nadine Brandt, the child of Gabriel, the Malkavian primogen, using a syringe of Nadine's stolen blood. When you located Flick, you contacted Sam and let her know that things were worse than you thought. What you had expected to be a poacher, perhaps feeding a bit too heavy-handed, turned out to be one of the most morally reprehensible things a vampire can do. Sam was going to come and meet you at Flick's hideout and help you decide what to do next, but when you mentioned the name Andrea, suddenly her plans changed. Seeming to recognize the name, she demanded that you bring Flick to her at once, your usual meet-up spot, the gazebo on the overlook above Eastern Beach. Your journey there was quite eventful. On the way back into downtown G-Town, you passed through a patch of undeveloped land and found yourselves face to face with a fully grown, incensed lupine, complete in 9-foot-tall war form glory. As you sped off into the night, with Bouncer licking her very grievous wounds, having come within an inch of losing her unlife, you have no idea why the lupine decided to set upon you without warning, only that it perhaps has something to do with Flick and the circumstances of her embrace. So we open tonight with you all arriving at your arranged meet-up with Sam. You hike up the cliff face and emerge at the overlook, and you find Sam already waiting there. Her pale skin illuminated by the light of the full moon, leaning over the banister at the edge of the gazebo, peering down into the sparkling ocean below. As you step up onto the gazebo, she hears your footfalls echoing on the wooden floorboards, and she clears her throat, pulling herself up into a standing position, folding her arms and turning to face you. The first thing she does is lock her gaze directly on Flick, sheltered between Marion and Tig.
Sam, meet Flick. Flick, this is our friend.
Says Sam, looking her up and down. As she narrows her eyes, Flick seems to shy away, letting out a gasp and wrapping her arms tightly around Marion's leg, pulling herself behind Marion to hide away. Well, she certainly looks like she's been living rough, says Sam. Hair dishevelled all over the place, skin pale. Her eyes are bloodshot with hunger. Don't suppose she's fed since you found her?
Not since, no, and I think it's been a while since she's eaten as well. She's been locked in a basement for, seems like weeks upon end. Every now and then her caretaker would come and drop off a bag of blood from the local blood bank, but yeah, she doesn't even know how to look after herself.
Yes, Andrea, says Sam. This seems like something she would do.
Who is Andrea?
She
I feel
raises
like it's a name that we should all recognize based on how you speak of her.
Well, I was hoping you'd never have to make her acquaintance. Andrea and I go back quite a ways, says Sam. She stares wistfully over the bay, thinking, reminiscing. And then she turns to face you once more and she says, Andrea is, or should I say, was, once upon a time, a dear friend. We arrived in this city together back in the 1940s, when it was little more than a train station and some wool stores, when the auto plant was just getting started, and we thought that this would be a good place to hide from the Cam and all the others who would seek to do us harm. I'm a La Sombra, she says, after all, and, well, let's just say I didn't always command the respect I do now. Andrea's much the same. Not a La Sombra, but not of a clan that's held to be respectable company by most, even in these nights. I must admit, I didn't see much of her after we arrived, and we drifted apart fairly quickly when the cam set their sights on the city, and the local anarchs turned to me to help them broker peace between themselves and the new prince. I found myself suddenly among respectable company. Andrea retreated further and further away into the shadows, and, well, I must confess I thought she'd moved on from the city by now. Perhaps she had. In either case, she's back, and by the looks of it, she gestures towards Flick, whose head pokes out momentarily behind Marion's leg before pulling herself back in. She's, she isn't keen on holding up the status quo, shall we say.
Alright, so she is an autarchist. Functionally.
Sam nods. Yeah, an autarchus.
So did she... In your time together, did she make a habit of embracing children?
Oh, well, no, this is a new low for her, says Sam. Morally reprehensible, she always was. Didn't care much for the masquerade. Even the anarchs wouldn't give her the time of day because of that. And some of her interests were perhaps a bit... She thinks for a moment. Esoteric. Too much so even by my standards. But embracing children, that's a new low for her. And I suspect the reason she chose to embrace young Flick here is precisely because when the cam learns that Nadine's blood has been used in the production of a child neonate, it's going to send the court into quite a tizzy.
Well, so she just wants to cause a mess. Disruption.
Sam shrugs. That's the only assumption I can make. Back when we used to run the streets together, she often said G-Town was small enough, the anarchs weren't organised, the cam hadn't yet shown up here. This could be our city. We could take it for ourselves, but, well, La Sombra were being hunted openly back then. Most of my clan were part of the Sabbat, and I didn't exactly want to, establish myself as a prince or anything high profile like that, so I respectfully disagreed, and it seems that she's held fast to those beliefs all this time.
So this is similar to Sabbat workmanship, but I don't know, something about it is so different. She's been keeping this child and caring for her, yet she's using it to potentially cause dissonance and discord. Something about this doesn't add up.
And yet, some time ago, according to what you said, according to the condition that Flick is in right now, she just stopped showing up, left Flick to her own devices, and Masquerade breaches started popping up, and, well, it seems to have the intended effect. Someone found Flick, and I wonder if it was meant to be you, by extension, me.
You think this is a message to you?
Could be, she says. I don't know what quite to make of it yet, but she kneels down in front of Marion, tries her best to meet Flick's gaze, and Flick seems to instinctually pull away from Sam, and Marion, you can feel her fingernails almost digging through the fabric of your pantsuit into the skin, into the flesh of your leg. You can feel Flick's body pressed tightly against your own as she seems to recoil away from Sam, whimpering, burying her face in the folds of your clothing.
Marion just strokes her hair.
Flick, is it? Says Sam. Whimpers Flick, shaking her head. Oh, you must be very hungry, says Sam. If Andrea hasn't been giving you enough to feed on and you've had to fend for yourself, I suspect the beast is starting to make itself known to you, and you're finding it harder and harder to maintain control of your fact. Sam raises an eyebrow.
Is there a point to this?
She sighs. She says, I would simply suggest we give our young charge something to drink.
That's fine. Just keep it to that.
Valerie has one more blood baggie left in her purse, and produces it, turning it over in her hands, making it known to everybody.
As you do this, you see Sam slowly raising her wrist to her mouth, baring her fangs. It's clear she's about to draw her own blood, but then she stops as Val proffers the blood bag. And as Val proffers the blood bag, Bouncer, what hunger are you currently at?
Oh, Bouncer, no!
I am at 4.
Hang on.
Bouncer, as Val produces the last of Christine's blood bags from her clutch and holds it aloft, you feel the beast in the pit of your stomach roar with anticipation, rattling the bars of its cage so hard that it feels as if your ribs are about to snap as the hunger causes your insides to shrivel. You feel your mouth contorting, your fangs baring against your will, and your hands twisting into the shape of claws as your arms twitch, and for a moment you find yourself about to just reach out and snatch the blood bag from Val's grasp. I'd like you to make me a resolve plus composure check. And as you do this, Sam notices how antsy Bouncer appears to be. She just looks over, her wrist still lingering in front of her mouth. She just raises an eyebrow and says, busy night, evidently. Well, it's about to get busier.
4 successes.
4 successes. You stop yourself at the last moment. Oh, you would so like to just rip that from her hands and devour it, but if you do, you'll be leaving this child to the mercy of Sam. And you trust Sam, you always have, but Sam would only offer her blood, knowing that it would bring that child closer under her control. Sam raises an eyebrow, and she peers over at Val, and she says, well, We can hardly take care of a fledgling when your own coterie arrives as impoverished as this on the clear verge of frenzy. Why not give that to Bouncer, and we shall, simply let Flick feed from my vitae. Keep her pacified for the rest of the night so that we can figure out what to do with her.
Marion shoots Bouncer a very stern look and holds out her hand for the bag.
So whilst Flick is a big girl, Bouncer is a bigger girl, and she can take care of herself. We need to do what we can for Flick. We need to get her in a state that's acceptable for Elysium and find out what to do with her. An actual solution.
Val, do you have your presence active at the moment?
It would reflexively start to flare up, yeah.
Yeah,
It
go
always does.
ahead. Make me a charisma persuasion check, adding your presence for awe. And Bouncer, what do you do?
Just almost because she's in no mood. So like, Marion definitely gets like a stink eye back just for like the inclination of it. I think it's inclination. But
Yeah,
the
that she can take
insinuation.
care of herself.
That is a critical 7.
Just like her trying to tell Bouncer like, no, you cannot feed from the bag, sort of thing. Of like, Bouncer has no will left and 3 aggravated damage. She's in no mood right now. Like,
Yeah.
I'll feed from whatever bag I want.
She's still clutching.
It's not that you can't feed from the bag, it's the Flick can't feed from the Sam.
Yeah,
but going on that, she just like looks at Sam, just like, yeah.
she's still clutching her side where there's blood drenching her jacket, but she manages to compose herself, giving the stink eye to Marion nonetheless. And
I can handle myself. It's not the
Sam,
worst. I wish I could say it's not the worst, but a rabid dog will do that.
Marion's hand remains extended, waiting for the
Yeah.
bag.
Sam just nods. She looks over at Bouncer. She says, "Yes, the lupine. We'll discuss that momentarily." Fine. She pulls her wrist away from her mouth, gestures towards Val. Well, I don't fancy trying to make a petulant child feed from a blood bag. You seem to have built up some rapport with her, so please be my guest.
Oh, she's getting the stink eye for that shit.
Val probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but Val would have been inferred correctly that Flick would have been basically just given blood bags straight up and knows what to do with them, right?
She has been fending for herself for a while, but yeah, she did claim that before she had to fend for herself, Andrea was giving her blood bags. So she
Marion-
knows what to do with them.
Marion just turns to Flick and she says, "No, sweetheart, you know how to use these, yeah?"
Says Flick, nodding.
Oh, you cut out there.
Says Flick, nodding.
It's the same thing!
Yeah, the start of the sentence
That's
keeps getting
part.
cut off.
Yeah,
She
she just
doesn't
says,
like your Flick voice.
she just says, nodding.
Okay.
There's a good girl. She hands her the bag.
You hand her the bag, and you see for a moment her eyes flare up. You see the beast take over, and for just a split second, it is not a young child, but a rabid animal, a monster standing between you as she grabs the bag, pulls it up to her face, and bites into it, spraying the blood all over her wrists and down the front of her clothing, voraciously devouring it.
Oh, we're gonna have to teach you some table manners.
Good lord, she's a messy eater.
Most of it ends up on the floorboards, on her clothing and on her wrists, then in her mouth, but it still seems to satisfy her, at least momentarily, when she hands you back the torn, bloody shred of plastic that used to be the blood bag, her face is notably calmer.
Okay, that's somebody fit for Elysium.
You come round to dinner one night, says Tig. Elaine'll have table manners drilled into you in about 10 minutes. Speaking of which, he says, he looks over at Sam, he says, I suppose we gotta figure out what we're doing with her, right?
First of all, we have to get her cleaned up.
I agree. Just so happens, says Tig, folding his hands together, I got experience cleaning up messy children. Haven't had to do it in quite some time, but I think it's like riding a bicycle, you know? You never quite forget. And Tig kneels down in front of Marion and reaches into the folds of his flannelette shirt, pulls out a packet of pocket tissues, extracts one, and begins to wipe the corners of Flick's mouth, brushing the dregs of blood away.
Val looks over past the sand and just muses to herself. We do also have the world's largest sink right here.
Indeed. In fact, you know, used to take the kiddies out to the beach by the day, and you know, they'd just go swimming in the ocean, and they'd come back much cleaner than they went in, so... Oh, just hang on, Flick, hang on, love, he says as he dabs the tip of the tissue into the very corner of one of her lips, extracting what appears to be a globule made of grime, dirt, and congealed blood that's been there for several days.
While this is all going on, and there's kind of a bit of a spectacle being made about Flick, Val is going to take a step or two closer to Mitch and whisper to him. Look, I don't know how Elysium's going to go, and I can't do the thing that we do on purpose. Can you, when it's safe, take a look?
Mitch just kind of tilts his head like a little bit and is like, I don't know what you're talking about.
You can see into the future, right?
Oh, yes, I can
One
do that.
possible future.
The
I
timeline
can't do
we're on
that
now.
I can't do that on demand, so could you, when it's safe, see what you can find? I'd hate for Flick to get... Yeah, I'd hate for something to happen to Flick.
I mean, I can do it now. Hardly anyone would notice.
Sam clears her throat, and she's noticed Val drawing closer to Mitch, whispering to him. She seems to have overheard what you've said. Her arms folded, her lips pursed. She says, if we're going to be relying on Mitchell for anything at all, I'm going to need assurances. She narrows her eyes towards you, Mitch. It's very likely, given how Nadine and her sire are going to be up the creek when it comes out, just whose blood is running through that child's veins, that your sire, Hawthorne, is going to try to make a play. Now, I need to know where your loyalties stand, because it's obvious that Hawthorne has his finger in several pies that he should have left well alone.
I mean, I would hardly consider that something for you to say, but as for my loyalties are wherever the timeline takes us.
Says Sam. She scoffs loudly, and then she says, let it be known to all here, as you are my coterie. And we are, after all, bound by the duty to ensure peace between the Camarilla and the Anarchs, to not get personally involved in petty power plays, that Hawthorne has had Mitchell under domination for quite some time, and this has recently been made very obvious to me. She eyes Val as she says this.
What the fuck do you know about Hawthorne?
I know that he is, he is not as versed in statecraft as he thinks he is, and does not understand that there are more subtle ways of ensuring that your agents remain loyal to you. She lets emphasis hang on the word subtle.
As much as I think this is an important topic, we do have things to do right now. But far be it from me to dictate the entire situation, but Elysium isn't far off.
Indeed. But I want to go into it knowing that Mitchell is not going to jeopardize the best interests of the status quo, and indeed, poor Flick here, just because Daddy Hawthorne pulled him aside, looked him in the eyes, and said it must be so.
That would be nice.
I'm going to need you to stop talking about Hawthorne like that.
Just remember, says Sam, lowering her voice, you and everyone else here belong to me, not your sire. Your sires brought you into this world, but I am the one who guided you through it. I'm the one who showed you the ropes, and I expect loyalty to myself above all others. And I have
audibly
ways
scoffs.
even perhaps I speak too soon. After all, you're merely here as part of an arrangement that I remind you was modified without my input or without even notifying me in the 11th hour.
Yes, it was, wasn't it?
And so while you are here, I would ask that you defer to my better judgment.
I'll defer to better judgment.
Just remember, I've been very gracious to allow you to take the place of Cross at all, and if the Hecata wishes to be in my good graces and receive any of the knowledge of oblivion that I possess, you'd best do as I say.
Oh, sweetheart.
I will admit...
That's so cute.
Will admit, says Sam, raising her hands in a show of perhaps deferring to you, conceding the point. I do not have the bonds with you that I do with the others. The others follow me out of choice, and it's taken many, many years to foster within them the sense of loyalty that they have. And you are an outsider, you're essentially a mercenary, but I understand you'll do what's in the best interests of your clan, and the Hecata would very much prefer that the Camarilla and the Anarchs do not tear themselves apart over an embrace of a poor child tonight.
Marion nods.
So, before we even broach the topic of Elysium, I've got a question, she says. What is going to happen to Flick? Now, as you know, in this city, the standing arrangement is that all fledglings, whether authorized or not, are passed into my care for education and training. As she says this, Marion, you feel Flick once again wrap her arms around your leg, and you feel her head shaking as she just says, No! No!
Look, whilst you've been very good to us, Sam, I think this is a full-time job for somebody. As I think we can all surmise, this isn't a situation that's going to resolve itself in a year or 2 or 3 or even 100. A flick's always going to be like this.
And she's going to require someone who has been around the block to train her. You're all 20 years dead, give or take, she says, gesturing towards Marion. And, well, you've been around the block, but enough to train a fledgling in the ways of the night, a fledgling who is, for all intents and purposes, a walking masquerade breach and always will be. Now, I think it's for the best that she comes with me.
Like I said, I am grateful for everything you've done for us, and I do think you're very talented in a lot of ways, but you're a very busy person. You barely even had time to come down here to see us. A child's a full-time responsibility. Full-time, not part-time, not casual, full-time. And then some.
Is Tig with us right now?
Yep, and Tig speaks up. He looks at Sam, and his gaze drifts between Sam and Flick, and he says, I would take her, I would, I'm good with kids, he says as he strokes his chin, clearly torn. But I got a family, I got Elaine, I got the boy, I got my granddaughter, and if she ain't learned how to control herself yet, I'd be putting them in danger, and I just can't put me family at risk like that, not until she's been properly trained. And he looks over at Marion.
Marion just gestures Tig to come over closer into whispering range.
He steps over. He's about to say something to Bouncer, but then he shrugs. He steps closer to Marion and leans in. You got any ideas of your own, love?
Darling, could you just take Flick away for a moment so we can talk openly?
He nods. Look, I ain't much for politicking, and even Elaine's knowledge ain't exactly applicable here, so I'll just take a walk along the beach there, and you figure out what's gonna happen, and I'll defer to those who know better.
Thank you, darling.
Come on, Flick, love, I'll take you. We'll walk along the beach. I bet you never seen it at night. Oh, it sure is beautiful. He grabs Flick by the hand and leads her away, stepping off the gazebo, and the two of them are swallowed up in the darkness.
As soon as they're out of earshot, Marion just looks directly at Samantha and says, "Watch your fucking mouth around the child."
I see what this is about. You feel bad that you're losing control of your coterie a little bit, such as when Marion joined, and you want to make some big power play in order to prove yourself again. However, I don't see why you have to treat us like shit just because you feel like you're losing control over the situation.
Oh, is this out of character for her?
Yeah, she's usually a bit more subtle.
That's Marion saying that for the record.
Yes, yeah. I will ask Marion.
Yes.
Even Bouncer picked up. I will ask Marion and Mitch to both make me a manipulation subterfuge check.
What for specifically?
Just to see whether your words, what effect they have on her, because it's clear you're trying to needle her in some way, and I
would have said that Marion is being straight up more intimidating with the line she just said.
So you can make an intimidate instead of subterfuge, but Mitch will go manipulation subterfuge.
I got a 3.
Okay, I got a 2.
And Bouncer, you can go ahead and make a 2, 3.
God.
And if I also roll insight?
Yes, you may also roll insight.
She gets 2 on that as well.
2 on that.
I got a 1.
A 1. So, Sam's lips so thin that her mouth is essentially just a line gouged into her pale face. She glares at Marion and she says, Control was established 20 years ago. It will not erode. I just do not take kindly to others poaching what is mine. Do you understand? And Marion, with your 2 successes on your insight check and Bouncer with your 1 success, you both notice that Sam's doing her very best to maintain a facade of cold confidence, but it seems that just raising the idea that her control is being eroded is something that she instantly jumps to the defense on. Just the idea that someone may be providing any sort of influence counter to hers is something that she will not brook. And you get the impression that were she not trying to maintain this facade, she would be willing to engage in some quite heavy-handed techniques to maintain control right now.
She can try.
Because I understand that you follow me out of loyalty, I will not do what Hawthorne would do. I will not simply dominate you into subservience. But the unlife of a small child is at stake here, so we must decide what is to become of her. The prince will most likely call for her destruction. If she can be swayed from that, her next course of action will likely to be to demand Nadine Brandt, who is, after all, technically the girl's sire, take her in. But there is a standing arrangement, of course, where all fledglings, regardless of parentage, are sequestered to me for education and training. I'm more worried about the fallout that's going to fall upon Nadine and her sire. It's clear that this was attempted as a way to be the final straw that breaks the camel's back and turns the prince against her primogen. And I think it's for the best interests of this city that we make sure that doesn't happen. Are we in agreement?
That doesn't seem very neutral of you.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Well, if the prince declares that Gabriel is unfit as primogen, then there's going to be a scramble to fill the spot. I know that Hawthorne will be one of the contenders, but he's not the only Malkavian of influence in this city. And the Anarchs have just had a shift in leadership. Baron Archibald, as ever, sits on his ass and does nothing, but Dinesh, the new warlord, is under pressure to establish himself as being someone who can get things done, and if it comes out that the Cam are having such inner turmoil that they can't even trust their own primogen, then, well, I would hate to think what the Anarchs will do with that knowledge.
Hold on, we just recently resolved a situation with the Anarchs where they were backstabbing each other and killed their own warlord. This isn't that different. The pieces change and deception reigns everywhere, all the time. Why is this so particularly interesting to you?
Because when the Camarilla court is in disarray, it's far more visible than when the Anarchs are in disarray. The Anarchs, after all, are, well, She looks over at Bouncer. No offense intended in present company, but the Anarchs, well, they're disorganized. Shit happens all the time. The Cam, though. The Cam's presence in this city, the Prince's praxis in this city, is built around the fact that the Cam are indomitable. And Val, you understand this. You understand that the Cam establishes itself on a facade of strength and authority, and such a public display would, well, make a mockery of that. I care only that the tensions between the Anarchs and the Cam in this city that have been held at bay for 40 years now do not simply spill over into all-out war because somebody embraced a 7-year-old girl.
You think the average Anarch is that stupid that they don't already know that the Camarilla is constantly at war with itself? I mean, come on, it is constant subterfuge in politics. Everyone knows it. If things change, then that's just the ebb and flow of politics.
This then, she says, looking at Mitch. If Gabriel gets ousted as Primogen, then whatever Andrea was intending to do succeeded. And, it would cause my blood to boil if Andrea got her way. Need I remind you that fairly recently, in fact, the Ventru Primogen's own child, who happens to be the current CEO of Pentex, defected to the Anarchs and is using the resources and good graces of Baron Archibald to push this Cowie's Bay platform project thing that the Camarilla were dead set should not happen. It's very clear that somebody is working behind the scenes trying to unravel the social fabric of this city. A Primogen lured away from the Camarilla, a warlord of the Anarch murdered. Both sects have been thrown into disarray at this point, and I feel that we should be preventing any further damage.
Val checks her watch. How long do they have until Elysium?
So, it's likely Elysium won't be happening tonight. It's about 4 a.m. currently. You don't have long until the sun comes up. And this seems to be, well, you would think it would be coincidental that it would take this amount of time to find Flick and get her to Sam, but Sam seems to be adapting to it quite well as she clears her throat and she says, well, the question remains, what will become of the child? She's going to need somewhere to bed tonight, this coming day, before we even get to Elysium. And once
I think she
again,
should go where she feels most comfortable. We should
I
just
agree.
ask Flick.
At this point, Tig emerges from the darkness laughing. He's got one of his dogs trotting along behind him. The dog's wagging its tail and barking. And you can hear Flick for the first time giggling as a little girl should. Go on, love, says Tig, gesturing towards the gazebo. I'm sure the others have some things they want to talk to you about. Flick runs up the stairs, her little feet clambering on the floorboards. And she makes a beeline straight for Marion. Sam twists her face into what she thinks is a look of kind friendliness. And then she gets down on her knees, looks into Flick's eyes, staring between Marion's legs, and says, we were just discussing you, my love. The sun's going to come up very soon, and I'm sure you've figured out by now that the daytime is very, very bad for those such as us. We don't want you to spend another day in that ugly cellar. So, we need to decide who you're going to be bedding down with today. Flick says nothing. She just hugs Marion's legs even tighter. I think it should be me, says Sam. After all, this is old hat for me. I can keep her safe, have her make sure she's fed and presentable before Elysium, give her the best chances of letting the prince see that she is no threat to the sanctity of the Masquerade. And as she stares into Flick's eyes, her voice, sweet as honey, says, "And you would like that very much, wouldn't you?"
Samantha!
Hold on a second. This isn't right.
So, it is clear, at least to Marion, and possibly to Mitch, that Sam is about to dominate the young girl. And as you say her name aloud, she simply stops mid-sentence.
Look, this is what I was talking about. We need somebody who can look after her and understand her, not just beat her to a pulp. And there's something in the back of Val's mind that seems to kind of shudder, but she can't quite put her finger on what it is.
Well,
Val?
Sam seems like someone's projecting about my sire.
I'd
Marion, go on,
Go
sorry.
Marion.
Marion just quickly turns to Flick and, taking the moment, asks genuinely, would you like to spend some time with Samantha?
Know who she is, says Flick. She doesn't seem very nice. Well,
That's
Better than
okay.
this.
That's rude, says Sam. Auntie Sam will keep you safe.
It's okay, Flick. You don't have to do anything you don't want to.
She smiles so broadly that her teeth seem to glow white in the moonlight, reflecting it. I would like Val to make me a charisma persuade check, adding her presence, while Mitch makes another manipulation subterfuge.
That is a 3 from Val. It's not the best roll.
3 from
And
Val.
for Mitch.
So, Sam rolled 5 successes. Pooling your successes together, you beat it by 1. Fine, says Sam. For a brief moment, her composure slips. She stands up, folds her arms together, and she looks away, peering out over the bay. Fine. She purses her lips. Thinks for a moment. And then gestures. She can stay with Marion this night. I'll see you all at Elysium tomorrow night. Be prepared. That goes double for you, Bouncer, she says. Show them that even anarchs can be presentable. Flick's life depends on it.
You know I will.
Her back now turns to you. She seems to be dismissing you. And so the air around the gazebo suddenly incredibly cold, frozen, the tension emanating from Sam so thick that you could cut it. Exchange glances and join Tig down on the edge of the cliff face. So, says Tig, as he starts to lead you down the dirt track back to the car park. She bedding down with Marion, then?
Flick, would you like to spend some time with me? You can go with anyone else if you'd like to.
stay with the doggy, says Flick.
Marion just gives an inquisitive look to Tig.
Tig raises an eyebrow and he says, now, look, I know your car was one thing, but your haven, that's another. Don't suppose you'd let one of me big old fluff balls bed down with you for the day?
Marion just sort of... Actually, this doesn't even really bother her. She's fine with it.
Tig kneels down, he rubs the dog's fur, and he says, now you do everything Auntie Marion says, alright? You don't do anything, you need to go out, you let her know, you don't do anything on her couches or on her furniture, alright? There, he should be well behaved.
Thank you, Tig.
Right, so, Elysium. Can't say I've been to one before, so what's the go? We all meet up, wearing our Sunday best.
Oh, that's more or
Mitch.
less what it is.
Is like frantically texting this entire
Marion.
time.
Sorry.
And
Yeah.
just kind of goes, yeah, whatever.
Marion's attended Elysium many times before, yeah.
She's been probably not as much as if
She's
she
got
was
two etiquette
actually in,
and two
yeah,
politics.
probably not as much as if she was in the cam, but she's usually there. And her sire, used to sort of be the spokesperson for the Hecata. And since her sire's been away in another city for the last few years, she's been filling in. So yeah.
I think it is much, yeah, okay.
All right then. So, City Hall, I believe it is. Didn't you say, Val, that's where the prince and her cronies all hang out?
That is right?
Yeah, it is correct.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much the space. When you said Sunday best, I think you hit the nail on the head. You don't need just to wear your Sunday best, you need to bring your Sunday best. Nothing but perfection is acceptable at Elysium.
Rightio, just like I'm at church. Look, I'll ask Elaine what to expect, and she'll know, look, she's not a vampire, but she knows how to host a good dinner party, right?
Marion looks Tig in the eyes, and her eyes flash briefly, and she just says, be on your best behavior, okay?
Are you dominating Tig?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I would like you to go ahead and make for me. Are you using Compel or Mesmerize?
Mesmerized, and I got 4
Yeah, so-
successes.
Yep, make a rouse check, please.
Yep. Doesn't get hungrier.
Doesn't get hungrier. Tig just shakes his head and he says, yeah, perfection. Righto, got it. I'll probably spend most of the thing just standing in the corner, me mouth shut, and I'll leave it to, you folk, you lot who understand what's going on to plead the girl's case, right?
There's a good boy.
Alright, I'll see you tomorrow night, and please, if you gotta feed him, he doesn't take any of that pal shit, it's gotta be advance only, okay?
Understood, no worries.
And so,
By the way, I have rationalized, so if he notices later.
yeah, he probably won't. And so, I'm sure Demiurge would agree. And so, you go your separate ways, and the night takes you. The darkness is flushed away by the grey light of the morning, and the city begins to awaken. The nightlife, like scurrying cockroaches, taking sanctuary within the shadows. And the next night, as you awaken, I'd like everybody to go ahead and make a rouse check.
I don't get hungrier.
Did not get hungrier.
Val doesn't get hungry either.
Neither does Mitch.
That does Mitch. Oh, sorry, Bouncer.
Yeah. Getting willpower back, is that at the start of a night or at the start of a session?
Yeah. So you each
Start of
get
a
back
night,
willpower equal to composure or resolve, whichever is higher. And that's why I'm making Elysium the next day, just so you can get a bit of willpower back.
Yeah. Fail, I got the 5.
Oof!
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god, is this the second time you frenzied in bed?
Yeah.
Oh, Bouncer.
Different character, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
actually,
Oh, Bouncer's done it before.
yeah, it was.
I thought it was Bouncer.
Yeah.
So,
Usually one getting the crap kicked out of it, yeah.
as the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of crimson and gold, the city's nocturnal inhabitants stir to life. Among the darkened streets and shadowy alleyways, the hidden society of the kindred awakens. And in the heart of the city by the bay, in the midst of the bustling, neon-lit streets, a great scream emanates from the top floor of a low-rent apartment tenement as Bouncer comes to in the midst of frenzy. Her faculties returning to her as she realizes that she's planted a fist in one of the walls. Not one of the plaster walls, in the solid brick wall that runs alongside her kitchen, bisecting her flat from the one right next to it. And as she looks over her shoulder into the living room, she sees not just the mattress she sleeps on, but the armchair and the sofa in absolute tatters, as if somebody let the world's most gigantic Labrador into the room and it proceeded to shred absolutely everything. Eat, kill, take, tear them apart. The beast is at a fevered pitch. You can feel hearts beating around you, in the flat next to you, in the one below you, in the hallway outside, the street outside the window is a giant artery, blood pumping through the vessel, calling to you to take it. You take a deep breath. Holding your hands to your ears and trying desperately to block out the roars and shrieks of the beast as it calls upon you to smash through that wall and devour whoever is on the other side. I don't suppose you wish to try to heal any of your aggravated damage?
Not at the moment, no.
Definitely not. Yeah.
I don't think you have any blood to spend.
So, as Bouncer calms herself down, pulls her clenched fist away from the hole in the brick and takes stock of the damage she's made of her apartment yet again, I'm going to ask you all a question. You have time to hunt before Elysium, but if you hunt before Elysium, you won't have time to make yourself fully presentable.
Sam's all good. Oh, not Sam, Val.
I'm fine.
Yeah. Mitch?
Makes good.
Bouncer, though, I'm pretty sure your choice is made for you. You can try to subdue the beast, make yourself presentable, turn up at Elysium and hope that you remain composed long enough to get to the refreshments table. Or you can answer your beast's call and hunt.
Yeah, no, she's gonna hunt.
Yeah. You're right.
At this moment, by the way, Bouncer, as well as everybody else, will be getting a message from Val requesting that they all take the same car.
Arriving as a group.
She has something she wants to talk about.
Yeah.
Mitch
You
is going to be
hear-
arriving with Hawthorne. Mitch
Oh.
wouldn't be in the car.
So, Val, you get a message back from Mitch, and it simply says, I'm riding with Hawthorne. And Bouncer, you hear your phone vibrate in the other room, and you realize that it's probably a message from Val updating you on Elysium etiquette, but in your current state, you think you'd be more inclined to tear the phone in half and hurl it at the wall than actually answer the message. So you just let it sit there on the bedside table. But Val, do you respond to Mitch?
No, Val is very aware of the situation with Mitch at this point and knows that it's not worth fighting.
Yeah.
Not in this way, at least.
So, I will ask Bouncer to go ahead and make a Charisma plus Subterfuge check for me to hunt. Assuming you want to do the normal song and dance. The beast is calling upon you to just find someone, anyone, shove them against a wall and drain them. That would certainly be very easy.
Hmm. No, yeah, just gonna try the same old.
Same old, go ahead, Charisma plus Subterfuge.
And looks plain as this, or does that not help? With
Actually, yeah, go ahead, add your looks. Because normally you'd be disheveled and monstrous, but you're hunting, and vampires always know how to hunt.
ooh, it's 5 successes.
5 successes, nice. It all happens in a blur, Bouncer. You don't remember consciously leaving your apartment. You don't remember calling an Uber and picking a place to hunt. The next thing you know, you're standing on the edge of a dance floor in some club you don't recognize, barely hearing the thumping bass as the warm bodies gyrate before you, their veins ripe, full of flowing blood. You're trying as hard as you can to fend off the beast, to stave off the frenzy. You can't remember ever being this hungry. It's taking all of your willpower to not just let loose, paint the dance floor in blood and eviscerate somebody as the beast so desperately wants to. You're not even consciously aware of dancing the dance, of finding someone who looks vaguely interested in you, making small talk with them, batting your eyelids and proposing that they join you in a secluded spot in the park across the streets that you can get to know each other. The next thing you're conscious of is the ecstasy, the sheer pleasure of that warm, sweet blood gushing down your throat, of the beast cheering you on, more, of your victim vainly struggling as his pleasure turns to pain, as you take more and more and more, as your fangs bite deeper, as you pin him down, pressing him against a wooden picnic table so hard that it buckles under his weight. And I'd like you to make a resolve plus composure plus a third of your humanity check, please.
This doesn't factor in hunger, does it?
This does not factor in hunger.
What the difficulty is. I burn a will because I don't really feel like killing someone right now.
Yeah, probably wise. You are at hunger 5. The difficulty is going to be 4.
Ew. Damn. That's a 3.
3. No! No! What are you... Stop! Stop! The man begins to scream as you drink deeper and deeper. The beast roars and you lose yourself in the feeding, taking more and more and more. His struggling grows fainter, feebler, and then it stops. And so does the blood. The last drop slides down your throat. Reset your hunger to 0 and add a stain. As you regain your faculties, come to and find before you a wooden picnic table in the city park. So buckled under the weight you were pressing against it that it's almost been cleaved neatly in two. And wedged right in that bulge in the very center is the beaten, bloodied, dead body of the man you just fed from, his mouth frozen in an expression of abject terror. But the beast purrs. Yes. Yes, all is well. But now you've got a quandary, Bouncer. What are you going to do with the body?
Shit. I guess the first thing you should probably think of, like, are there any large, like, dumpsters or anything nearby?
Yeah, there's a dumpster. There's a basketball court on the other side of the park, and you can see a large blue dumpster pressed up against the chain link fence on the edge of it. It's surrounded by bags of rubbish. It looks like it's had several days to pile up.
Yeah, so she's gonna, make sure the wound's closed. So there's at least no bite marks or anything, and then, take the body over to the dumpster, like, pull out, like, the top layer of the bags, and then chuck them in over that.
Yeah.
So that it's somewhat hidden, at least.
I wonder how many times Bouncers had to do this. It doesn't matter how many times, it's always unpleasant, shifting away those bags of rubbish, burying the body deep enough down into the dumpster that it isn't immediately visible and won't be noticed until, hopefully, it's safely in landfill and can't be traced back to where it came from. You try not to look at the man's face as you lower him into the dumpster. You usually feed upon the type of men who would see Bouncer as a piece of meat to conquer and subjugate. But you were so consumed by hunger, you can't even remember this man speaking to you at all, and you can't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, this was just a guy out to party. You thought that he'd gotten lucky tonight. As the light catches his face, you realise he doesn't look that old. Certainly younger than you were when you were embraced. You shudder as you drop a garbage bag on top of his head, then pile another one on top of that, and another, and then slam the dumpster lid down, rubbing your hands together as if trying to shake away the dirt. But the bloodstains remain. The metaphorical ones, at least. You look down at your phone. You see the message from Val. Let's take a car together. You send her a message telling her which park to pick you up from. And you do your very best to make yourself presentable, which in this case just amounts to making sure the dirt from the struggle and the obvious bloodstains have been cleaned off your clothing, but there are still tears in your jacket from last night. Your dress underneath still hangs lopsided on your body. Your hair still disheveled from your frenzy. You try your best. You hope that you won't have to do any talking tonight. I would like Marion and Val, as they make themselves presentable for Elysium, to go ahead and make me some charisma etiquette rolls, please.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
Whoa, I got a messy 6?
I just got 2.
Six. Messy 6.
Put on my clothes, blood goes everywhere.
Are you gonna willpower that?
I'm not sure.
What was the
I'm not
check
sure what
for?
Yeah, I'm not sure what this check is actually for, so...
It's just to get yourself presentable for Elysium, to make sure you coordinate your outfit and... You were attacked by a werewolf last night. You got to clean up.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea to spend willpower on that one.
Because, messy crit, you'll still get yourself presentable, but I will make you roll for a compulsion. It won't necessarily be your normal Ventru one, but you will have something hanging over your head throughout Elysium.
That brings it down to a regular success of 4.
Regular success. And, Marion, you got 2?
Yeah.
Alright, so I'd like you both to describe what you're wearing to Elysium tonight, and how you try to obfuscate the fact that you had a very busy night last night and very nearly lost your lives at the teeth and claws of a werewolf.
For what it's worth, Marion didn't actually have as much physical altercation there. She's just arriving in her slightly nicer version of the usual attire, just a nice business suit, medium short skirt, tights, all black.
You have Flick with you, and Flick, as you step out of your bedroom... actually, I don't think we know Marion's Haven. Do you want to just describe Marion's Haven quickly for us?
Oh, I never actually codified it. I reckon she has... did we establish that she was in, a particular building? I think we did.
Yeah, I think she owned one of the suites in the Colonial Hotel.
That's right. Yeah, we did decide that.
Run. Yeah. This suite that's sort of been set aside as her permanent haven because she, is a Giovanni, and... the Giovanni are allowed to have their havens in that particular hotel.
It's homey. It's white wine homey, but it's homey. Yeah, it's pretty comfortably furnished. Marion has 3 dots in resources, so she's living quite comfortably. It really is what you would expect of an upper middle class, just boomer woman's house, She's
replaced several of the hotel's furnishings with her own. It doesn't... If you compared it with the other hotel suites, you wouldn't think that they're in the same building, because Marion's very much left her personality on this room. And as you step out of your room, dressed in your best for Elysium, you see Flick look up from the very thick folds of fur of Tig's dog splayed over one of your pure white couches. She waves and smiles. Good morning, good night. I don't know which one to use, she says.
You know, I've never figured that one out myself either.
The dog looks up. Roof! He barks loudly, and you see a big long line of saliva just slide from his mouth and pool on the couch.
She winces at that, but she turns back to Flick. What do you think we should say?
She says. Well, it's nighttime, but usually you say good night when you're going to sleep. I think good morning. Good morning's better, because when you wake up, it's good morning, and it's time to go to school.
Well, okay. Good morning, Flick.
We going to school, she says. You're dressed very nicely. Is it parent-teacher night?
It's not too far off. We're going to something called Elysium. It's a big fancy party where all the grown-ups get together and discuss what their plans are for the near future.
Doesn't sound like dogs are allowed, she says, peering down at the dog.
No, I don't think that they will be.
So you get to hang out with Tig all night. The dog just looks up, he barks again. Roof! And another fleck of saliva lands on the couch.
It's leather, thankfully, so she can just wipe that off.
You suppress the urge to just shudder. And then you gather Flick up, make sure her hair is brushed, make sure... You don't have any children's clothes in your suite, so she kind of has to wear what she's already wearing, but you try to clean it as best you can. Make sure there's no obvious bloodstains. Make it look like she's actually a civilized being and not a walking masquerade breach. And then you text Val telling her to park outside the lobby of the hotel and you'll be down shortly. And Val, how are you making yourself presentable tonight?
Val always has the same outfit, so she always leaves the same impression, so she always has the same impact.
Autistic.
It's the yeah, a little bit. No, she's wearing the same thing she was yesterday and the day before and the day before that. It's a black blazer with a white shirt underneath, a pencil skirt, black shiny, very lightly heeled shoes, and her hair back behind her ears like normal, and her nicest earrings. That's what changes.
Neurodivergent queen.
She always looks...
I want to say that it's canonical. She has a cupboard full of the exact same outfit, but I'm not.
Oh my god!
I'm not going to go that far. I can't do that to her.
She looks, she always looks like she's just come off a runway, but Elysium's extra special. And so we turn to Mitch. Mitch, you don't have to make the roll to make yourself presentable, because the first thing you do as you awaken is head to Barton University. You make your way up to the dimly lit, not often tread third floor of the science faculty and knock on Hawthorne's door. And he's expecting you. And he knows exactly what he wants from Elysium tonight. And he tells you exactly what you're going to do. He gives you a suit to wear, full academic regalia, making sure to show the rest of Elysium your station, that you, and by extension he, are masters of this domain, and have no equal. And as he leads you down to the university car park, he looks into your eyes, and he says, "This is our chance. You say the girl was embraced with the blood of Nadine Brandt. The Primogen will fall tonight. I want to know what you plan to do, Mitchell. This will be a test of your loyalty. So tell me, who is going to benefit from your most considerable wisdom tonight?
Mitch looks kind of confused that it's even a question, and he's like, of course it'll go your way. I'll make sure it does.
Of course. After all, it is just one possible future, but it is the future that this timeline must connect to. If anyone else, at the end of tonight, holds the spot of Malkavian Primogen, then everything we have worked for, everything we have done to stabilize this timeline and ensure we are in our rightful place, was done for naught. I know you will do the right thing, he says, as he pulls open the passenger side door of his black Mercedes and gestures for you to take a seat. And as you take a seat... Yep, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say Mitch says. I didn't know if you were pausing for effect or...
Oh, no, you could... Yeah. Mitch takes a seat and... You're joined in the car by Hawthorne as he pulls the door shut, turns the key, and the engine begins to hum. He sighs, takes his hands off the steering wheel, stares into your eyes, and this time his own eyes flash. Just the same, he says. When the time comes, no matter whose ties must be severed, you will come to my defense and ensure that I and you, by extension, reap the rewards of a position on the council. And he is going to dominate you into essentially advocating for him tonight. Are you going to resist that domination, or are you going to let him do it?
He'll let him do it.
Good. He says, I hear you ran afoul of a lupine last night, he says, as the Mercedes rolls out of the underground parking lot onto the streets and begins to make its way towards the glimmering skyline. Surely you would have expended some blood in the struggle.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it was all kind of a blur, to be honest.
Lupine, though, he says. I remember you saying to me that your interest in them was purely academic. I think you've seen proof now that they do indeed exist, and are not to be trifled with.
Mitch does that, like, your professor told a bad joke, but you're trying to get a good grade laugh. It's just doing that. Yeah.
Do not worry, the den of vipers we walk into tonight is much less frightening than the teeth and claws of a lupine, but just so you know, if it does come down to it, and there are questions asked over whether Nadine and her sire should face punishment for the embrace of this child, do bring up that you were almost bested by a lupine. That'll certainly get everyone at court speaking. And make no mistake, for the lupines to attack you, well, it's clear that Nadine and her sire are playing with things they do not understand, and I hope by telling your story, you will make that clear to everyone else at court.
Yeah, I mean, Lupin's attacking randomly. That's the timeline is obviously completely fucked at this point. If things like that are starting to happen,
Here, let us stabilize the timeline and ensure that the beast does not cause you to slip between the cracks of reality. You're going to need all your faculties about you tonight. He raises a wrist to his mouth and pierces his skin with a fang, and as a single drop of blood rolls over his pale skin, he holds it out to you.
Mitch kind of nods in appreciation and starts lapping up the blood.
There, says Hawthorne, his voice oozing. You've always been a good student, Mitchell. You're not a student anymore. You're a doctor now. We are equals. And so, we will fight to make our mark together. He smiles as he turns his attention back to the road, and the car carries you to Elysium. The deluxe Uber that Val hired glides through the city streets, making its way towards the town hall where the prince holds her nightly court. Gathered in the back seat are Val, Marion, Bouncer, perhaps looking disappointingly not quite presentable to Val's eyes, and Tig. For once, for one of the very rare times in the last 20 years that you've known him, he is not accompanied by even one of his dogs. Understanding that they would not be allowed in Elysium and would simply make a mess and make a lot of noise. And he's, just as he said he would, done his best to appear presentable. He's wearing his Sunday best. And what is Tig wearing? What does Tig wear to Elysium? What does he consider his Sunday best?
It's a simple beige suit with a black string tie and a rancher's hat. It's not particularly fancy. It's well worn. It's well cared for. It's clean. And the tie tack has a world's best dad pin on it. But aside from that, it's meant to evoke humility and common origins. That's all.
And Marion, you see what Tig's wearing, and the first thing you think is that either he has a very definition of what the word perfect means, or your dominate didn't quite work. Tig is 12th generation, you're 13th. He shut down your dominate. But you don't know this. All you know is that Tig probably would have caught less eyes if he turned up to Elysium dressed as he normally does. You hope this is not going to jeopardize your chances to save young Flick from the terrible fate that awaits her as she sits now half on your lap, half on Tig's, absent-mindedly humming, watching the city lights go by out the window, blissfully unaware that all of the night's events that are about to unfold concern her. So, Val, you assembled the coterie here because you had something you wished to discuss with them.
It would have been nicer if more of them were there. Especially those of us who are from the original group. But this will have to do. Val fidgets around for a little bit, not sure exactly how to get the words out. But does her best anyway. Look, I I'm not sure exactly what's going on with Sam, but something about this doesn't seem right at all. I didn't want to say it in front of her because I'm not sure exactly what I'm trying to say, but she does seem awfully invested in this whole Nadine situation. I don't think I've seen her be quite this invested in politics ever, really. She normally actually plays her station quite close to the chest and keeps in her lane, well, more or less. But this doesn't sit right with me. Something isn't adding up.
So that unpleasantness was abnormal then.
I mean,
It
she's
was.
always been a bit odd and heavy-handed, but not like this.
Normally she's cool as a cucumber. Not so much here.
She's oddly cool all the time. If this is your first time actually spending time with her, then this is not a good representation of what she's normally like.
Look, it's my first time with her properly, but it's not my first with the La Sombra, and I must say I was surprised.
She's
Honestly-
scary, says Flick.
Honestly, it makes her feel a little more human to me, but who we are, looking like humans ain't necessarily a good thing, you know?
And Flick's right on this, actually. I'm not sure what to say other than I don't even know. I've been
Well-
getting this strange sensation lately, and I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's like, have you ever left your dry cleaning somewhere and then you didn't pick it up for 2 weeks because you couldn't remember where you put the ticket?
No,
She realizes she's asking Tig the wrong question.
You should maybe ask someone who was embraced with early onset Alzheimer's. Just saying.
Right. I guess it must feel a little bit like that then. I don't know. I've been feeling more and more uncomfortable around Sam lately, and I can't put my finger on it. I don't know. I just wanted to float all this by and make sure that everyone's aware, I suppose, of what the situation is, and I don't know. Something feels very wrong.
Well, could be as simple as she's got like a boon she owes Nadine and Hawthorne. Hawthorne? No.
Gabriel.
Nadine and Gabriel. Or it could be as simple as she's got dirt on Hawthorne that she can't divulge. But yeah, she has been a little off the game, hasn't she?
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what to expect from Elysium tonight, but we should be double so on our guard.
I'm expecting the worst church social ever.
This Tig tugs at Marion's sleeve and then looks over at Tig and grabs him by the shoulder.
Huh?
Uncle Tig and Auntie Marion, are Mum and Dad gonna be there at the party tonight?
I don't think so. This is kind of a special party.
Are you gonna take me home afterwards? I really miss Mummy.
Oh no, you do.
And Daddy. I miss Daddy. I didn't think I'd miss Daddy, because he just sits in front of the TV and yells at the football, but I miss him too.
I know, it's probably Daddy's way of blowing off steam, you know.
We're going to
The
do
lady-
everything we can to get this sorted out for you, okay?
The lady who helped me, Andrea, she said that my mum and dad were a loose end, whatever that means, and she said that even if I wanted to, I couldn't go back.
Val quickly shoots a look at Marion and Tig. The look is, don't say a word about what that means.
Yeah, Marion just nods.
Tig nods back and his face forms into masses and wrinkles of sorrowful sadness.
And yet, last night, Mitch contacted the number that Flick said belonged to her parents, and he did get a response. A text message. No way to tell if it's truly from the mother or someone with access to the mother's phone. But he kept that close to his chest. We'll see what happens. So, As you approach the city hall, an air of foreboding hangs heavy in the night. The grand edifice looms before you, its towering spires reaching for the moonlit sky. G-Town City Hall is a structure both imposing and alluring. It looks more like a Gothic cathedral than a civil services building. Its darkened windows seeming to conceal secrets as ancient as Cowie's Bay itself. As you make your way up the flight of stone stairs that flank the entrance and step through the thick double oaken doors, the ambience changes instantly. The bustling streets outside vanish, and you find yourself in a different realm. The interior of the city hall exudes an aura of elegance and opulence, with vaulted ceilings adorned with intricate chandeliers that cast a soft, warm glow upon the polished marble floors, and the ornate bookshelves that flank the walls along the sides. A long, elegant table stretches across the hall, displaying an array of refreshments that offer no sustenance to vampires, but serve to maintain the illusion of normalcy for any mortal guests. The exquisite spread includes crystal goblets filled with deep red liquid that to the trained eye clearly bears no resemblance to wine. And assembled are G-Town's Camarilla. High society, at least 30 vampires wearing a mixture of fashions timeless and modern. Conversations hum in various corners, low whispers discussing matters both mundane and profound. And at the very back of the hall stands Prince Aveline, surrounded by a circle of her closest confidants and the Primogen. Nobody seems to notice your arrival. If they do, they make no show of it.
That seems odd to Val, because usually she at least gets somebody coming over and shaking her hand or telling her another fantastic story that they want to get published in the paper, but...
Indeed. The Harpy has arrived, and nobody seems to care. You peer around the hall, and then you see Sam standing off in the distance, swallowed up in the shadow of one of the vast bookshelves, and she peers over the crowd of vampires at you, holds out a single hand and motions for you to join her. And this is what seems to demand the attention of the room. I would like everybody present to make a wit and awareness check.
Alright.
Success of 5 for Val.
2 for Marianne.
2 for Marion. I will ask Mitch to roll as well, even though technically he hasn't arrived yet.
Let's see.
What's awareness, you said?
Yep, wits awareness.
Mitch got a 3 on a reroll. He rolled 1 initially.
Lovely.
Critical 6.
Critical 6. And while you're at it getting criticals, Tig, I'd also like you to make a charisma etiquette check, just to... I got everyone else to do it before we took a break, just to determine how well you present yourself.
Well, he's gonna boost with blood here. And
Only
not
one
get
can answer.
hungrier. And that's... Can I pay willpower for not to be a messy critical 5?
You can.
Alright, thank you.
And it will just be a crit of 5 then, in that case. So Tig
Yeah.
brushed up quite well. So you
He
all...
cleans up pretty good. He even shaved today.
Yeah, which, you know, is not something Kindred do a lot, because they just wake up the next night with their hair back again. So
Yeah.
you all notice, and you in particular, Val, as Sam extends her hand and gestures for you to come and join her. That's when some of the vampires in attendance look up. Their low whispers stop, and their gaze lazily drifts towards the hall's entrance, registering your presence only for a moment. And as you make your way across the hall to Sam, as you make your way into the hall and begin to mingle with the crowd, their whispers follow you. Look, the girl, just like she said, they harbor a masquerade breach, and they bring her here? Oh, somebody's playing games. Somebody's playing games indeed, and under the harpy's nose, no less. Tig, you, quite aware of the fact that you're not in your element, notice that there is one other vampire in the room who seems to have their attention not on you, but on Flick, as she trots along behind you, doing her best to shield herself from the gaze of the others by ducking between you and Marion for cover. There's a tall, almost impossibly thin man with dark brown skin, dressed in clothes almost entirely black, standing right beside the prince, his eyes locked on the little girl. You can see, arrayed on a small table in front of him, a strange assortment of objects: silver goblets, bowls, vials of what appear to be various coloured powders and liquids. As he catches you staring at him, Tig, he purses his mouth and nods curtly, but says nothing.
Tig will give a nod back.
It's at this point that you hear the tapping of a fork on a wine glass. The low buzz of Elysium is instantly silenced, and Val, you see your sire, Maria, gliding out of the throng of revelers. A smile on her face, her eyes glimmering, and for a moment you think she's coming to greet you, perhaps to announce your presence, until she glides right past you towards the door of the hall, where Hawthorne and Mitch stand. She clears her throat. As Keeper of Elysium, I now announce the arrival of Professor Hawthorne and his child, Mitchell. The rest of the vampires nod, welcoming Mitchell and his sire.
Val leans into the group and mutters, "See, I told you something was wrong."
Yeah. As she makes her way back to the crowd, Maria catches your eye line, and she stops. She smiles and she says, Valerie! Very interesting things afoot tonight, aren't there?
There are.
And for once, Jeanette didn't seem to know.
Yes, Jeanette's been a little bit sloppy lately. As of you, it seems. Where was our announcement? What's going on?
Announcement? Oh! She giggles and she says, I thought you would not want to... I thought you would want to maintain a low profile tonight, you know, considering the, She gestures with her head in Flick's direction. Samantha said you're going to argue for allowing a walking masquerade breach to run at large in our domain, and I figured that it would be best it would be prudent for you to arrive with little fanfare and
So you let the rumors run free instead.
Well,
Like, I'm not here to question your post. It's just, you know.
I'm the keeper of Elysium, she says, and it is my duty as keeper of Elysium to ensure that drama is kept to a minimum, and, well, we've already got enough drama tonight. And what with Professor Hawthorne's very last-minute announcement?
Wait, what are you talking about?
Oh, you haven't heard? Maria says, her perfectly painted face feigning shock.
No. Please, inform me.
Oh, why? Professor Hawthorne is going to call for a vote of no confidence in the Primogen Council tonight. After all, that thing, she looks over at Flick, that trails you along is the progeny of our Malkavian Primogen's very own child, is it not?
Look, I'm not at liberty to actually talk about it, but where did this rumor start? Did Hawthorne put you up to this, or?
Oh! Well, no, Hawthorne. The, statement of the parentage of this young thing here comes straight from the mouths of your patron. She gestures over her shoulder at Sam, who's still waiting for you to join her.
Val suspected that this was the case, but having confirmation is nice.
It seems, for once, Samantha and her underlings are not quite in sync. Interesting.
Now, don't you go reading too much into that. It's unnecessary.
Oh, please, far be it for me to out-harpy the harpy, says Maria.
Far be it.
I
Far
shall
be
be
it.
paying very close attention to the events of tonight, however. I presume that the prince will have a lot of people chattering in her ear. I hope for everyone's sake it just makes it stays respectable. And yes, the keeper of Elysium in Melbourne was also called Maria, but that was Maria Diamante, whereas this one
I assume it's like a Nurse Joy situation.
could be, but this Maria actually predates the one in Melbourne because I made up D-Town as a setting first. But yeah, so she just winks at you and then she turns and in a whirl of her red dress disappears once more into the throng of gossiping Toreador on the edge of the hall. I don't like these people, says Flick. This place is scary.
Val interprets this as her just not being used to it. Elysium isn't scary to Val. It was at the start, though. So she tries to give Flick a word of, I suppose, comfort. Now look, all these people might be very scary, and in some ways they are, but once you get to know them, some of them are quite nice.
No, I just want to stay with you.
And you will be. We'll be right by your side through the entire event.
That nasty Sam lady keeps staring at us, she says.
Marion's head swivels to where Sam is.
Sam's just out of earshot. She thankfully hasn't heard that, but she's frowning, her lips pursed, her arms folded, impatient as she nods, gesturing for you to come and join her again.
Tig's already up there, awkwardly holding a glass of not wine.
Yeah, and just as we make our way over or something, Bounce is just going to sort of quietly, so that hopefully only the group hears it, is just sort of alright, so we're making sure we're making sure. God, what's the current Prime Minister's name again? The
Gabriel.
yeah, it's like. So I'm assuming we're making sure Gabriel doesn't leave his post tonight. I'm assuming.
I mean, I suppose that's up to us, isn't it? I'm not sure if I care what happens to him, but
No, don't get me wrong. I could care less what happens to Gabriel. It's more the everything else around it that happens is what I don't want to happen.
As you begin to make your way over to Sam, she peers over your heads towards the entrance, spies Hawthorne and Mitch. And for a brief moment, you see her grit her teeth, baring her fangs. She claps her hands together and raises her voice. Mitchell, forgive me, Professor Hawthorne, but as one of my envoys, Mitchell and I have things to discuss.
Mitch just
Hawthorne
kind of
peers. Yeah, go ahead.
No, Mitch just kind of like presses himself into Hawthorne's side, like clearly not wanting to deal with this at all.
Hawthorne smiles back at her. As you can see, Mitchell has chosen where his loyalties lie tonight. Isn't that right, my child?
Yeah, of course.
Are we drawing a line in the sand, then? Says Sam.
Mitch just looks kind of anxious and is like, well, I suppose.
Sam sort of rankles at this. She glares at Hawthorne and she says, "Don't think I don't know what you're doing." He meets her gaze with his own and he says, "Likewise." As if I'm not the only one employing their disciplines to keep their underlings in check. "You watch your words," says Sam. "This is neither the time nor the place. Fate of the entire domain hangs in the balance tonight." "Keep telling yourself that," says Hawthorne. "It is for the good of the domain that I make the play that I am. But go ahead, have your little strategy meeting. We'll meet again soon." He peers down at you, Mitch, and he says, "If you'd like to check in with your coterie, feel free, but do hurry back."
Mitch nods and goes to stand with the coterie, mostly seeing this as an opportunity to gather more information before things start.
As you walk away, Hawthorne nods over the hall towards Sam and he says, "Till we meet again on the social battlefield." And as you all make your way towards Sam, I would like everyone to go ahead and make for me either a charisma or composure plus etiquette check. And Bouncer, you get a 2-die penalty on this. You're not at all looking presentable.
Charisma what, sorry?
Charisma or composure plus etiquette.
I'll go ahead
Sure.
and boost composure as well. God damn, dice are hot tonight. Alright.
I got 5 successes out of 5 dice.
Lovely.
yeah,
What was his
that's
roll
3
for,
from
sorry?
Val.
So this is just as you're making your way to Sam, you got to pass through the crowd,
Yes.
and in Elysium, even when you're just passing through the room, you get caught up in little conversations, and people greet you, and this is just to weave through this little minefield of potential social faux pas.
No
Oh,
worries, I got
cool.
a 4.
Yeah. After all, you're trying to make the best impression possible on these people so that you can argue your case.
It's a three for Val.
3 for Val.
So critical 7, and may I use the critical to cover for Bouncer if she hits any difficulty?
I will.
There you-
Sure.
Oh shit! I just saw your roll. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so would you
On my
like
one
to,
die, I got a total failure.
So would you like to use your critical to cover for Bouncer? It will reduce
How
your
are
degree
you
of
alive?
success. Just don't
Pretty
come to
much.
Elysium.
I think he's treating it like a church social.
I'm an anarch
and-
bruja in Elysium. What do you mean?
Yeah.
and keeping an eye on Bouncer going, oh, she's about to. And so basically, anytime somebody tries to rile her up, he takes her arm and deflects with, oh, it's lovely to meet you. Nice to be here. Isn't this nice? Yeah, great. Everyone's fabulous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you notice, Tig, that Bouncer is drawing a lot of looks, a lot of people raising their hands, tittering to each other, giving veiled glances in Bouncer's direction. There's such a blood stain on her jacket. Oh, her dress is torn. It's hanging off her body. You'd think she just crawled out of a dumpster and she comes here. Typical anarch.
Marion notices and appreciates Tig's effort for the record.
Yeah, and these are people who are going to decide the fate of that poor child.
And at a strategic point where he says just a little too loudly, oh, you still got some of that werewolf blood on you. Don't worry, we'll clean it up later.
Ooh, okay.
Whoa!
Werewolves, lupines. The buzz surrounds Tig and Bouncer as Tig grabs Bouncer and pulls her away into the shadows of the bookshelves to get to Sam. Meanwhile, Marion glides through Elysium like a fish in water. She doesn't come to Elysium as often as Val, but as the temporary spokesman for the entire Hecata clan in the absence of her sire, there's a lot of familiar faces here, and she greets them with panache as they pull her aside. Oh, Marion, how's that thing going, between your clan and my clan? Are we still planning on having that thing set up in the hotel? And yes, says Marion. Everything is according to plan. The Hecata, as always, have the interests of the clan at heart. And Val, you're the harpy, and there's a lot of rumors hanging around you tonight, and as you glide through Elysium, few of the whispered rumors reach your ear. The harpy is going against Professor Hawthorne's move. Did you hear? The harpy. Oh, Jeanette didn't know about this, and somehow it slipped the harpy's mind as well. Oh, no, never say it slipped the harpy's mind. She knew all along. A Toreador looks over at you and winks. She knew all along, didn't you, Valerie? This is all in stride for her.
Val says, it's very slightly too loud, but very deliberately, I know more than you could possibly imagine, about more people than you could possibly imagine. And she meets her gaze and looks her directly in the eyes so she knows that she is talking about her.
A few of the gathered vampires lean in, whisper something to each other that you can't quite hear. But when you all gather on the other side of the hall and step into the shadow of the ornate bookshelf where Sam is, you get the impression that the court is curious, but they're not. They're curious about what's happening. Intrigued and amused. They're not exactly about to toss you out, and they're not looking at you with as judgmental glances as before. Instead, they're sort of just gathered around, waiting with amusement and intrigue to see what happens next. You've made a decent enough impression, enough that you appear respectable, and the people who are gathered here in court will probably be willing to hear what you have to say without just laughing you out of Elysium or being soulless yes men for the prince. Sam looks up, her arms still folded. Took you long enough. Everyone's been gossiping about you for the last hour, ever since Elysium was called.
Look, we made our way here as quickly as we could.
And you at least...
And you know me, damage control is nothing.
Well, I hope you don't mind, but I stacked the deck a bit before you arrived. Hawthorne sent a last-minute announcement by way of one of his retainers to the prince that he was going to call a vote of no confidence. So naturally, the topic of Flick and her parentage was on everyone's lips. I simply stepped in and said that she had been placed in your care, and that, as the Harpiers want to do, he would arrive shortly and argue your case. The prince is conferring with her advisors right now, and you'll see she's brought a member of the Banu Hakim with her for matters of analysing Flick's blood to verify her parentage and all. So, I understand that last night you'd been through a lot, we were perhaps a bit strained. But we're going to do our best to ensure that Nadine and Gabriel don't take the fall for this. Am I right?
Tig looks to Valerie.
What we're going to see is justice done. No more, no less. That's the point.
Well, justice, according to the traditions, would see poor Flick executed. In fact, I have a feeling that's what Professor Baxter's going to argue for tonight. She glances over at Mitch. The look in her eyes says, and that's the type of person you're defending tonight.
There are many kinds of justice.
So, how would you like to do this? Shall we approach the prince together or separately? Either way, regardless of the words that were slung last night, she glares at Marion. You are my envoys, and I'll do my very best to ensure that you walk out of this unscathed. But I will not guarantee the same for Flick. If it is for the good of the domain that she be surrendered to the prince, then you'll find, ultimately, that I won't argue. I'm concerned with making sure that Nadine and Gabriel don't take the fall for this, and if that requires that the mistake they made be erased, so be it.
Val looks round to the group to gauge their responses. Just a quick glance.
I would describe Marion's countenance as snide.
Mitch just kind of has like a hazy look in his eyes, like he's clearly not fully there at the moment.
Tig's got his hand in Flick's and is looking at her with a great deal of concern.
You said this was going to be a party, says Flick loudly. It's just a bunch of people talking, and it's dark in here.
I'm sorry, honey, I know. It's a grown-up party. They're very boring.
Really?
Boring is right, she says. I wish Andrea hadn't taken away my PSP.
No, her Persona
Yes,
Let's
please.
Play. No.
Well, says Sam, the prince is still conferring with her associates. I believe she'll call you when she's ready. So, go, mingle, do what it is you do, and see if you can't set the stage for Flick's continued success here.
This
Take nods.
catches Val off guard, because that is not what Sam was arguing yesterday.
Hmm.
Val, is there a problem? She says, noticing you being taken aback.
Oh no, it's just, in my opinion, Flick's success revolves around Flick. She's not sure how to finish that sentence in front of the poor little girl, but she's sure that Sam will understand.
Well, naturally, says Sam. That would be the best outcome for all involved, would it not? Of course, resulting in Flick being passed into my care. As I understand it, if she is Nadine's child, then she trails off. Well, I just think it would be the best that she's educated by someone with a proven track record. However, if we fail to argue for what you call justice, and she's deemed a mistake, well, if that's what's going to get us through this unscathed...
That's a really high price to pay, frankly.
There are several ways you can approach this, she says. We can wait to be called by the prince, argue our cases together, see what sticks. Or you can each pick someone in the court that you deem to be influential, see if you can prime them in favor of Gabriel and Nadine. Perhaps mingle. Try to see if you can find out what kind of plays Hawthorne intends to make. And return to me, and we shall formulate a plan. It's up to you, she says. This is, after all, why the Harpy is one of my envoys. You leave it in your hands. But I'll be there to back you up, whatever the case.
That's the important thing, is that we have each other's backs, right? Says Tig, looking at Mitch. Because it isn't the time to go off and try to screw each other over, yeah?
Mitch kind of has like a pained smile, and he's like, it's not about trying to screw you guys over. I mean, you're just taking Sam's word that everything would be better if Gabriel and Nadine didn't get punished, but perhaps you all should make that decision for yourselves instead.
Mitch, you're doing it.
Mitch doesn't respond and just keeps smiling.
It's gonna be one of those nights.
So, you have a short time before the prince calls you to have an audience with you. What would you like to do?
That's a very good question.
Could try to get the feeling of the court on which of the Primogen they side with either way, or try to get the feeling of what they would like to do with Flick and what they're likely going to support. You could try to subtly try to sway them one way or the other.
Actually, yeah, I think Val is going to play the field, as it were, get the vibes for what the general consensus is around Flick's execution.
Yeah. I will also point out that you, specifically, Val, due to a downtime action, currently have a sort of boon with the sheriff, with Sheriff Lucas, and you could directly approach him and argue your case directly with him.
Oh yeah, I forgot all about that. Yeah, but I was going to play the field first and then go quickly have a word
Yeah.
with Lucas.
Marion, what would you like to do?
Marion is staying very close to Flick.
Very close to Flick to guard her. Tig, Bouncer?
So, Bouncer, I'm thinking we could act like do the thing we does sometimes when assholes roll into my neck of the woods, and we could act like bumpkins to draw the heat away from the others. And I mean, not just, I mean, somebody's going to come over here and try to disrupt things because that's how it goes, right? And we could just walk around and chat with people and basically run interference so that the smooth talkers can do their bullshittery. Look like weak targets.
What do you think,
As far as
Bouncer?
mean girls bullshit goes. And when that happens, you just direct them to me, because I've dealt with worse. I've dealt with PTA associations. They don't rattle me none. This law's got nothing on Ethel from Sturbridge, is what I'm saying. Fucking Ethel. Ugh.
And Mitch, you're currently dominated by Hawthorne, so you have only one thing to do, and that is to try to stoke the court's favour in Hawthorne's play, so that when he calls the vote of no confidence, they rally behind him. The only choice you have to make is who you think would be the best target. You could do the safe thing and chat up the Malkavians in attendance. That probably would be most divisive, but they'd be the easiest to sway in your favour. Or perhaps go for a more influential clan, such as the Ventru, try to get them on board.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Mitch would assume that most of the Malkavian already kind of know the situation. So I think that he would kind of want to explain to the other, probably to like the
clans.
Ventru or something, like what's happening.
Yeah. Alright, so we'll start with Valerie. Valerie, go ahead and make for me a charisma plus politics check, and you may add your presence if you have your ore on.
Yes. Oh, good God, what an awful roll. Let me reroll.
Spend the willpower.
Oh, okay, 4 successes. That'll have to do.
4 successes. So, you sort of glide around Elysium, not picking any particular crowd of people to talk to, just sort of drifting back and forth between them, making small talk, trading small bits of gossip for other bits of gossip, helping negotiate some minor boons between some vampires and other ones, generally doing your harpy thing and getting a feel for where the court is tonight. And you get the impression that tonight the court is in pretty much a hard-line dance regarding the traditions. The embrace of a young child is morally reprehensible and a breach of the Masquerade, and they essentially want to see Gabriel hung out to dry. To that end, though, you get the impression that not many of the vampires in attendance seem to think that Hawthorne would be that much better as a primogen. For the most part, even the Malkavians you speak to sort of give you the impression that they see Hawthorne as just that old eccentric schemer who sort of sits in the shadows and doesn't really do anything with his clan at large, and has never really seemed to have any particular fondness for the court. So they're not sure whether he would be better than Gabriel, but the court seems to be pretty dead set on Gabriel and possibly Nadine being made to be held accountable for what's happened.
Does Val get any inklings that anybody has any better suggestions within the Malkavians?
Within the Malkavians specifically, there is some talk about stripping Gabriel of his Primogen spot and installing Nadine instead. As Gabriel, by allowing Nadine to supposedly sire a child, has demonstrated that he doesn't really have the authority to be a Primogen. But Nadine, by siring a child, has demonstrated that she has the initiative to make power plays. It doesn't make a lot of sense to you, but it makes sense to the Malkavians. There's something among them that they seem to admire, that Nadine seems to be making a stand against her sire.
Val is going to spend some of her time speaking honeyed words to the Malkavians of a vote. A vote for their favorite, or a vote for their preferred, a vote for whatever it is that Malkavians want.
Yeah.
Rather than just accepting the status quo.
Make me a manipulation and either persuasion or politics check. And you may add your presence to this.
I'm gonna boost my manipulation as well.
And by the way, I'll let you know that I'm tallying up everyone's successes in these scenes to determine what the eventual outcome will be.
Oh, good God, what a bad roll. I might spend another willpower on that.
And the willpower, yeah.
Critical 8, there we go.
Critical 8.
That's a turn around.
Some of the Malkavians grumble. Hawthorne just sits in his office at the campus. Since when is he even at Elysium? I don't think I've seen him here once. And that child of his, that Mitchell, he's such a bore sometimes. Always talking about Mandela effects. And no, Nadine knows how to get under people's skin. And that's what we need as a Primogen. What we need is Malkavian, someone to take us seriously and show they're not to be fucked with. At this point, you catch sight of Sheriff Lucas, the smartly dressed Ventru, his bodybuilder physique bursting, rippling under his suit, motioning for you to come and join him. When you make your way over to him, he looks you up and down, taking in the full sight of you in your Elysium best. And then he smiles, and he says, "So, I take it you're anti-Gabriel."
I'm anti-Gabriel, but also... You know that thing I talked to you about, and I said I'd get some information for you?
Yeah. Who sold me out to the Giovanni. I've had to give them so many of my interests. Had to look the other way when they had an obvious Masquerade breach. Now they're eating into the chain of gyms I'm setting up.
Alright, well. You see that man over there? And she
Yeah.
gestures, pointing out Hawthorne. The long and short of it is, it's his fault. It's a bit more complicated than that, but that's what you need to know.
It seems quite obvious to me that Mitchell's his thrall. So...
Oh, he all but announced it directly as soon as he walked into Elysium tonight. It's not often we get to spend time with Hawthorne, but it's always an absolute pleasure when we do.
So, in that case... if you vote against Hawthorne, I'll back you up. But... he fingers the cigar that he's holding between his lips. It's unlit. It seems to be just there as an affectation. He says, "There is the matter of the child. Now, I'm the sheriff. It's my duty to uphold the traditions. And as you know, the prince is..." He looks around before he leans in and lowers his voice. "Particularly antsy about it lately, what with everything going on with Melbourne and the rumours of the Inquisition, and I should be duty-bound to argue for this child being executed, as unpleasant as it is. It's what must be done. But you've given me information that will help me claw my way back out of the Giovanni's clutches. You've given me a target to devote my investigations towards, so I'm going to ask, what would you prefer to happen to the child?
I think Nadine should be punished directly. I think she should have the child put directly in her care on penalty of death should she abandon her.
Nadine, take her child? Sounds right to me. Although Nadine is saying, for the life of her, she has no memory of embracing the thing. Says it's a power play that someone's passed the child off as her own. That's why the prince has brought the Assamites in. A little bit of blood magic should set the record straight. Look, as the sheriff, I've got to ask. I understand your coterie were the ones who found this kid. You're sure it's Nadine's child?
All but sure. Though, I would ask, if something happens and it's not Nadine's child, please do something to put her in our care.
Alright, I will vote for keeping the child out of harm's way and either in the care of her sire or under your control. So there's nothing to these rumors that someone is setting Nadine up.
Look, I don't have any concrete evidence in regards to that, so I don't want to start rumors flying around. So we'll see what shakes out, won't we?
He raises an eyebrow. Alright, sure. And this makes us even. I owe you no boons any longer.
Not at the moment. We'll see what happens in the future, won't we?
Pleasure, my dear Harpy. He pretends to take a puff of his cigar. Slides it back into his lips. Marion, you're standing by with Flick clutching your leg, taking shelter behind you, and you're trying your very hardest to sort of defend her from the judgmental gazes, the inquisitive looks of the rest of the court. I would like you to go ahead and make for me a composure plus either etiquette or politics roll for me.
Okay, I'm gonna boost composure a little bit. I don't get hungrier. And she gets 3 successes.
3 successes. Every time someone comes by...
Actually, I'm gonna re-roll that.
Go ahead, yep.
4.
So every time someone comes by and sort of glances in Flick's direction, you stand in front of her, meet them eye to eye, ask them if there's anything you can do for them, and it's usually enough to make them walk away, but eventually a man in an immaculately tailored white suit, obviously a Ventru by the look of him, whose name you don't quite remember but whose face is familiar to you, walks up. He folds his arms and he peers around your legs at the child and he says, seems to have taken a liking to you.
She's a lovely girl.
A lovely girl, and yet a Malkavian, if the rumors are to be accepted, and the grandchild, as it were, of a primogen, potentially a very powerful and influential little fledgling, wouldn't you say?
Yes, well, she could be. She's got a lot of potential.
He holds out his hand. Ernest Brown, Ventru of the 12th generation. I'm sorry, I couldn't help but notice that, of all the people who she came in with tonight, she seems to have taken a particular liking to, well, I'll just go straight out and say it, a clan, quite infamous, I would say, for their propensity to stick their noses where they don't belong.
Actually, Marion will chuckle politely as well as she gives her hand to shake. And she'll just say, yes, well, I can't resist an opportunity when I see it, but I really do care about this one.
Well, clearly the Hecata have some interest in her if they've sent one of their loyal Giovanni to watch over her like some sort of guardian angel, some
Not
sort
quite
of
so
lapdog.
much. Not quite so much. She ignores the lapdog remark. I was assigned to join the coterie, but our run-ins with Flick came after the fact.
And having a young, impressionable fledgling of potent blood connected to the Primogen who is, I'll say, smitten with a member of the Hecata is just a happy coincidence, you would say.
It might be hard to believe, but I would say yes.
Very interesting. Look, I have dealings with the Hecata myself, he says. Not that it particularly concerns me what happens to the child, or the Malkavian Primogen for that matter, but I must say I am concerned. Our clan has suffered a great loss since Aliot defected to the Anarchs and took control of Pentex with him, and, well, I just would not be a responsible member of the court if I didn't at least raise my suspicions that an outside force may have their hands in this, and may be acting even now to coax yet more faithful members of the cam over to their side.
I appreciate your concern, and I'm sure you no doubt have the same concerns that I do for little one's well-being, but I promise you that she is my primary motivation here.
Ernest nods. Ah, commendable of you. And then he turns and makes his way back into the crowd, picking up a glass of sparkling wine from the central table as he departs. So, Mitch, go ahead and make for me either a charisma or manipulation plus politics check.
Okay. 2 successes.
If you want to be particularly mischievous, you could maybe make a rouse check to run a premonition to see if there's a particular thing you can hook onto among the Ventru.
Good idea. I will do that. I succeeded, so...
Succeeded. So, as you drift over to the Ventru, crowded around the central table, all suits and business skirts, pencil skirts, you call upon the beast to allow you to peer through the mass of timelines into one possible future. And it's a premonition quite unlike any other you've ever had. You're not glimpsing any singular event. Rather, it's as if somebody has pared reality down before you and laid several books at your fingertips, and you're flipping through them, getting the vague summary of multiple different possible futures. There is one thing that appears to be on the minds of all the Ventru. The Pentex question. Specifically, with Pentex being under the control of the Anarchs, where they are going to find promising new blood. Blood that has been perfectly indoctrinated and intelligent enough to further Ventru interest. And suddenly, you know how you're going to go about this, Mitchell. You tell them that, and I'll add another success to your pool for getting the premonition. And do you get hungrier, by the way?
No.
You realize that if you're going to recruit these Ventru to your sire's cause, you need only tell them that your sire controls academia, that every promising new mind in G-Town that comes through the education system goes through him. And when they emerge, they're primed, ready to be faithful servants and retainers, that they no longer need to look to the ranks of Pentex for new talent. Ah, it's Hawthorne's child, says one of the Ventru, a man who looks as if he's in his late 60s, and for a brief moment you look at him with a flicker of regret that he was embraced at such an advanced age, his silver hair thinning, the lights of the Elysium hall illuminating several bald spots on the back and sides of his head. I suppose you've come to convince us to vote for your sire, rather than sticking with who's tried and true.
Well, considering the mess we currently find ourselves in, would we really call Gabriel or Nadine tried and true?
Fair point, says the Ventru. Fair point indeed. Tried and true, and yet we have this mess before us where we must decide the fate of unfortunate business. Well, answer me this then. If your sire is to step in and replace Gabriel, what benefit does he bring to the court in general? Remember, the Camarilla is not simply Malkavian. It serves the interests of all kindred, including Ventru, and the reason why we are voting for Gabriel to maintain his current position is because, through his research that he conducts with his child, he will eventually provide something of great value to our clan. But of course, we have other concerns, and we'd be very interested in knowing how your sire would address them.
Well, we can perhaps get things a little bit sooner than an eventual boon. For example, my sire, as you know, is heavily involved in the educational system around here, particularly the college. That's a lot of fresh blood moving around, highly educated blood that could be very useful as retainers or future kindred if anyone so desires.
And he would be willing to allow them to be poached by the Ventru, as it were? They are not claimed in the name of the Malkavian clan?
No, all you'd have to do is just ask.
Intriguing. I'd not considered that, he says. It's a tempting offer, isn't it? The rest of the Ventru around him nod. Indeed. I could do with someone educated in the current fundamentals of business. It's changed very much since the 1980s. Alright, we'll consider that. We'll take it under advisement, so long as we have your word as his child that his contribution to the Ventru will be made true.
Of course.
Well then, says the Ventru, raising a glass of wine. He looks at the other Ventru around him and he says, I believe we have a change of plan. Men and women. Ladies and gentlemen. The rest of the Ventru nod. They raise their glasses in a silent toast before they take a sip. And you've secured their vote for Hawthorne. Lastly, we turn to Bouncer and Tig, trying their very best to draw the heat. And I would like the both of you to go ahead and make either a charisma or composure plus performance check.
I already boosted composure, so I'll stick with that. Don't think I've got Jack for performance. Alright.
Look, charisma or composure performance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to boost charisma.
I'll take the hits, and if somebody gets too stroppy, you lay him out. With words. 3
Success, I don't get
successes.
hungry.
3 successes, and how did Bouncer do?
Damn, I'm not having much luck today. Going to...
Want to willpower that sucker? Your call. You don't have to. I mean, we're kind of the sideshow here.
And I will say, Bouncer, you get an automatic success in your dice pool because you're not presentable and you do draw it. You are drawing attention, but you're weaponizing that right now.
Yeah. I'm still pretty low on will, so I'm just gonna just take the 1.
1, that makes it 2, plus Tig's 3, makes it 5. So, as everyone else socializes, the two of you just sort of stand on the very edge of the hall, trying your very best to... Well, you know you look out of place, but you're doing your very best to sort of emphasize it. Sort of doing your best impression of the introvert at a party who just sits there in the corner, not sure of who they want to talk to and just sort of anxiously waiting for someone to come over and start up a conversation with them, but at the same time hoping that no one does.
Oh, yeah.
Knox! Here in Elysium! Says a toreador with long blonde hair and a body-hugging purple sequined cocktail dress. I expect this is quite unlike how you do your business. No one's shooting at each other.
Yeah, that's usually how we settle disagreements. We call it playing tag, you know? Before we proceed, I'm sorry. I am Tig Dunson, and my pronouns are he and him. What are yours, sir, madame?
Mallory, she says, holding out a hand.
Your pronouns are Mallory, eh? Alright. It's weird, but okay.
Wait. You were serious. I was making a joke. You people actually settle your problems by fighting each other like cavemen.
Well, only the small ones, not like cavemen. Cavemen don't have Glocks, now do they?
She raised them up.
It's called tag, you see, and you're supposed to go out when you take a hit, but some people don't. But it evens out because if you cheat too much, people gang up on them. And it tends to sort itself out.
She raises an eyebrow and looks towards Bouncer, taking in the sight of her lopsided dress, the big gaping gash in her jacket, the obvious dried bloodstains. And I suppose you've settled a lot of disputes then.
Oh, that. No, that ain't tag. You want to tell the story, Bouncer? You better that one. That one and I am.
Yeah. It's...
Nah.
Well, not quite that tag, but we had an impromptu tag with a lupine on our way home last night.
Her mouth drops open. Loop? You mean a real lupine? You know, the ones that the boogeyman. You know, the ones we're told don't leave the city. They'll tear you to pieces. That lupine.
That's what I tell you.
Yes.
Whew.
You know, 10 feet tall, 10 feet tall, claws as long as your arm. Damn near took half my insides out. You
went toe to toe with it, and you lived to tell the tale. And well, yes, I can see you're perhaps a little worse for wear, but you're pulling my leg, aren't you? Surely.
Oh, no. We didn't go toe-to-toe with it. That's suicide. No, we was driving and it chased after a ute, caught up to us, and I had to unload into it with silver shot, both barrels, while she beat the tint shades of piss out of it. Took a big chunk out of her.
Hey.
And Tig starts going into great detail about how you want to fight a lupine, and how many people have seen torn limb from limb.
She stammers, clearly speechless, and I will ask Tig and Bouncer to go ahead and make a charisma intimidate check. And Bouncer, if you want to activate your daunt, you can add your presence.
What the hell? The dice have been hot. I boost charisma and I still don't get hungrier. Good God.
Yeah, I feel like she's like passively had it on for a while, yeah.
Would you like, Bouncer, would you like Val's free
willpower?
reroll?
I'll see what I roll.
Oh, sorry, I saw your previous roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my
That
last
one
one.
was
Yeah.
bad.
So that's 3 successes on Tig's part.
Charisma intimidate, yeah.
Yep.
Add your presence if you've got daunt on.
Yeah. Between the two of us, that should be fine. So it's only a 3.
3. So Tig's going into detail about how you fight a lupine and how you have to be careful to keep this much distance between them and you because they'll get you and they'll eviscerate you. Their claws are this long and they can... Oh, he ripped the door off me, Ute, and Bouncer just stands there looking as tough as possible and says, he tried to kill me, but I was too tough for him. And the Toreador just... Her mouth drops open and she says, She looks over her shoulder, catches the eye of another Toreador, and she says, They took on a lupine and they survived. Holy shit, this kid, this Flick kid? She's got guardians who can get her out of some shit.
Oh, well, ain't nobody tried to mess with her yet. But I tell you, I sure wouldn't like to be them.
Indeed. At this point, you hear the sound of cutlery tapping against a wine glass yet again, and Maria glides out onto the hall and she says, Prince Aveline will now hear the voices of those both for and against tonight's point of discussion. The crowd of advisors and primogen around the prince thins out, and for the first time tonight, you get a good look at the prince herself. I'm going to put a picture of her up in owlbear. She is stunning. A beach blonde bombshell, perhaps no older than 19 or 20, dressed for the occasion, her outfit revealing in just the right places while keeping the most important things to the imagination. The look on her face, jovial and friendly, a perfect social butterfly. She clutches a wine glass filled with vitae in her right hand. Thank you, she says. I would ask Samantha, Hawthorne, and all of the envoys to assemble before me now, please.
Oh, that's so cute. Good to meet you, says Tig.
You gather around the prince, each of you bowing, curtsying, doing your very best to appear respectful to her. She smiles, clears her throat, and she says, well, I would like to make sure that tonight's pleasantries aren't entirely overshadowed by the rather ghastly business we're here to discuss. But, Professor Hawthorne here moves to make a vote of no confidence against Gabriel. She gestures towards Gabriel to her right. It's the first time you've seen him. He's quite old and grizzled looking. If Hawthorne gives off the vibe of being, you know, your stereotypical professor who spends all his time in his office. Then Gabriel gives off the vibe of a skull-measuring phrenologist quack who stepped out of a time portal from the 1920s, replete with brown knitted blazer and long flowing white beard and thick rimmed spectacles. First, of course, we must determine whether the charges that have been brought upon Gabriel and his child. At this point, you notice Nadine sort of cowering behind her sire, looking decidedly nervous and out of place, a look of anxiety on her face as she realizes the position she's in. Who is the current guardian of the child? She looks at Sam. Sam looks at Marion and says, Miss Dunson here seems to be the child's primary contact at this present time.
But we are taking care of her as a group.
As a group? Indeed. Well, as a group, I will ask you then, says the prince. Please submit a sample of the child's vitae. Ahmed here, she gestures to the brown-skinned, impossibly thin man to her left, shall test it and verify the parentage.
How does Flick respond to this?
My blood, says Flick. I don't want to give them my blood. I don't like needles.
It's alright. I remember it's like the blood bank, okay? They was all
Marion.
doing good things, right? This is taking her hand. You gotta be brave for this part. Can you do that? And Lee looks to Marion.
Marion just candidly asks, how much would you require?
Oh, merely a drop, she says, meeting the Banu Hakim's eyes. He nods in confirmation.
She nods, and she says, this won't hurt a bit, sweetheart. And she has very sharp nails. She just nicks Flick's pointer finger on the pad and drops out a little bit onto her own hand, and then she licks it closed, just giving her a kiss, basically.
Didn't know, says Flick. Your cooperation is noted, says Prince Aveline. She gestures with her free hand, and the Banu Hakim silently scurries forwards. He retrieves the single drop of blood and drops it into a crystal vial. As he returns to his little table, he arranges the silver goblets and the bowls and the powders, and he seems to have concocted a mixture of various chemicals in one of the bowls. He holds his hand over it, his eyes closed, reciting something you can't quite hear quietly under his breath, and then a soft silver mist begins to emanate from the surface of the bowl. Finally, he uncorks the crystal vial and drops Flick's blood into the mixture. You notice no discernible difference in what's in the bowl, but it seems to say something to him. He smiles, raises a single finger, turns towards the prince and says, Malkavian of the 11th generation. Indeed, says Prince Aveline. And there you have it, a Malkavian of the 11th generation. Gabriel! Your generation is 9th, I believe. He nods. That would make Nadine 10th. He nods again. The evidence certainly seems to suggest that this is Nadine's progeny. Nadine, at this point, pushes herself out from behind her sire, a look of indignance on her face. She stamps her foot on the floor, folds her arms together over her Friday the 13th t-shirt, and she says, I didn't embrace nobody. I swear it. I've never seen this girl in my life. And yet she's here, says Prince Aveline.
Like, have you met this lady?
Flick looks over at Nadine. And then she shakes her head. Mm-mm. I've never seen her before. See, says Nadine. It means nothing, says the prince. I know well the powers that Malkavians, particularly those of potent blood such as yourself, wield. That the girl remembers you mean... That the girl does not remember you means nothing. Unless, she says, looking over at Sam and then at Marion, unless Samantha Stokes's coterie has uncovered some extraneous information I should be made aware of.
So remind me exactly how much data we have on that.
So you know that her blood, you know Nadine's blood was stolen by someone posing as another vampire's ghoul, the Anarch Lacey. You're not sure whether she factors into this. It could be she was just chosen just because, you know, it was a convenient way to get close to Nadine because she had a thing for her ghoul. But someone disguised as Lacey's ghoul stabbed Nadine in the neck, stole her blood. And at some point, someone called Andrea has used this blood to embrace Flick.
I have a question. So this is when Nadine was having one of her quote-unquote real near misses, right? When
Yes, it was.
Okay, so I think Mitch is going to speak up and go, well, the blood ended up in someone's hands during a very interesting situation in which Nadine almost completely bleached the Masquerade and got her blood stolen by someone that she should not have been feeding on at the time.
You're vaguely aware of Sam glaring at you, and behind you, you feel Hawthorne nodding his head slowly, coaching you on. As you
Val's
can...
going to clear her throat. However, we have no evidence of this to actually substantiate such a claim.
I will ask Val...
You have a video.
Yeah, you do have a video.
Mitch has that video.
Yeah, Mitch has the
does
video.
Mitch still have that? I thought
Mitch-
Val had that.
I think Mitch kept it.
Oh, if Mitch kept it, then Val didn't say that. Yeah, I thought Val had that, and she would have left that at home.
Well, Val might assume that Mitch doesn't have it.
No. I was working under the expectation that she was still holding on to it.
Yep.
No,
I
that makes
sincerely
sense.
don't remember, but I don't remember it ever being transferred over. I remember Mitch showing
So,
Val
no.
not giving the phone over.
Wait, no, Cross took it.
Yeah, Cross took it, indeed.
We can
So,
assume
yeah.
then that the Giovanni have it.
Yeah, which means Marion can easily get access to it if she feels she wants to back Mitch up.
Let's see how people respond to that first.
So, Val, I would like you, in protest to Mitch, to go ahead and make me a charisma persuade check, and you may add Sam's Mauler status as extra dice. She's going to back you up. And Mitch, you may go ahead and make an intelligence plus either investigation or technology roll to explain the evidence that you actually have.
Success of 6.
And I assume Hawthorne's status doesn't do me any favors here.
It will not, unfortunately.
3 successes.
3 successes. Sam smiles, satisfied. Hearsay with no proof and nothing more. We all know that Nadine's had some troubles in the past, but she's been under careful watch of her sire for the last few months, and there would have been no opportunity for such an incident to have taken place.
Can we safely assume that Marion has been apprised of the information that
Yes,
the Giovanni
she-
have?
Yeah, she would have been. So it's up to her whether she now wants to, get access to that video and sway the prince in either Val or Mitch's. Currently, she's leaning towards Val, because Val got more successes and had Sam backing her up.
Mitch just looks
Okay,
so sad.
hang on. Okay, quickly. If you want to roll, that's fine. What do you think Marion's insight is on each person's angle?
So Marion sort of gets the impression that Mitch is, it's very obvious what Mitch is doing. He's trying to point out how Nadine is messy, and even if she didn't embrace this kid, the fact that she got her blood stolen happened because she was messy in the first place. Whereas Val is trying to sort of say that, she didn't embrace this kid, and there is no actual evidence that, her blatant disregard of the traditions led to this happening, and that's just Mitch trying to throw her under the bus, essentially.
Okay, I think
Val is
Marion-
also painfully making sure that she's not saying anything to that effect. She's just saying they don't have evidence.
I think
so if somebody comes up with
Marion's,
the evidence.
I think Marion's angle would be that she does not want to bring. She's concerned about Flick, and she does not want to bring any undue ire her way. And I think if Nadine were liable to be punished, then that might not go well for Flick. So she's going to bite her tongue for now.
Yeah. Well, without the evidence you describe, Mitchell, without this footage, we cannot say for certain whether Nadine's disregard for the traditions led to the situation we now have to deal with. In fact, I was the one who suggested that Gabriel place her under surveillance. We've been trying to avoid another situation where someone close to a primogen is lured away to the other side. At this, she gives a sidelong glance at Tig and Bouncer.
Tig's got his head off, looking as respectful as he can.
Well, wait a minute. Didn't this happen before she was placed under surveillance? I
Did,
thought this was
but-
why.
It did, but you haven't brought that up.
Well, I think Mitch would bring that
Yeah.
up if, the surveillance was a good idea, but unfortunately this incident happened before that surveillance was in place. And to be quite frank, God knows what else is going on out there that we haven't found out about yet.
And just the same, says Prince Aveline, it's all quite academic without this footage you describe, and from what you've said, it's in the hands of the Hecata. She looks over at Marion. Is Mitchell's statement correct?
Okay, well, she's not going to blatantly lie. Yes, I can actually corroborate these claims.
Sorry, not to interrupt, but did we ever get an actual time on when Flick was embraced? I don't think
No,
we
you
did.
didn't. No.
Tig points that out. Sorry, go on.
Sam
Oh,
nods.
actually,
Yep.
in the discussion with Flick about how long they've been there, it seemed like they've been held for weeks.
Yeah. And as you realise this, Sam curtsies before the prince and says the child has constructed a rough timeline equating to several weeks ago. It would coincide roughly with this incident that Mitchell is talking about, as loath as I am to admit that. Well, says Prince Aveline, if Marion here can corroborate that such footage exists, I do not expect to see it. Knowledge that it exists is enough. So it would appear that somebody has stolen Nadine Brandt's vitae as a result of a blatant disregard of the traditions, I might add, and has resulted in the creation of this unfortunate wretch before us. So-
If I may, a wretch by circumstance only. I've spent some time with Flick. We've gotten fairly close for the little time we spent together, and I would like to put my opinion forward politely that I believe she has great potential.
Well, indeed, says the prince. 11th generation, she has very potent blood indeed.
Generation, absolutely, but also a remarkable character.
I'm
Her
going
strength
to
of
point-
will is commendable.
However,
It's just worth noting she was on her own for a while and she didn't kill nobody.
However,
Once.
she came close, as I am to understand it. She still made enough of a mess that it reached the ears of one of the slop rakers at the Advertiser.
Yes, well, a child, she emphasizes that, without guidance is unlikely to perfectly fit herself in with our lifestyle, but I believe that she would be very receptive to any education she would receive.
And one, well, I'll agree with you there. A child without guidance is a dangerous thing indeed, especially one with blood as potent as this.
I would also like to say, if I may, that Flick themselves has illuminated us as to the situation in a little bit more detail. You see, I don't believe this is strictly sloppiness on Nadine's behalf. There is a certain player in this game named Andrea that our Mauler Sam is quite familiar with, who seems to have, in some roundabout fashion, caused this to occur.
Most intriguing, says the prince. Perhaps the very same person responsible for seducing Mr. Elliot Dawkins over to the Anarchs, perhaps. Go ahead, Val, and make me a charisma plus etiquette or persuasion, and you may add Sam's Mauler rating as extra dots, as extra dice.
Presence as well, or no?
Yeah, presence as well.
Wow, okay, thank you.
I think Mitch at this point would kind of say the fate of the child is one thing that frankly I won't pretend that I have a good answer for. Obviously this is a special case and deserves a lot of consideration. However, I think it cannot be ignored the way that this could have been avoided in so many ways, and the fact that we are now having to clean up yet another mess of an almost masquerade breach from Nadine.
Will agree, says Hawthorne. The child I would prefer to be left unharmed, but the mistake, the crime still needs to be answered for. I would ask Mitch to also go ahead and make for me a charisma or composure plus persuasion.
That's a 5 from Val, by the way.
5 from Val.
I'm gonna re-roll that.
Yeah.
I got the exact same. That's
5 as well. Lovely.
No,
two.
2.
I re-rolled
They
into
got the
another
same,
queue.
yeah. Says the prince. We'll come to an agreement then. The child shall not be harmed. I was going to put that to our sheriff as the enforcer of the traditions. She looks over at Lucas, and Lucas nods and says, I would prefer to keep my hands away from such dirty work. Let the child go to someone who will guide her. He catches Val's eye and winks.
Marion nods deeply, like a head bow, basically.
Tig cannot hide his audible sigh of relief.
Yeah, some of the tension that's been
Yeah.
holding in Bouncer
Bouncer.
releases a little at that.
Melts away. I suppose we shall honour the agreement and have her placed into the care of Samantha Stokes. Unless there are any objections?
My prince, if I may speak candidly,
Go ahead, says the prince.
within minutes of first meeting Flick, Samantha felt it appropriate to, I apologize to be so frank, but to dominate Flick, to be more amicable to Samantha taking custody over her.
Only to subdue her so that she would not present any unforeseen problems that night, my prince, says Sam. And I will ask you, Marion, to go ahead and make me a charisma plus persuasion or...
Mitch,
Yep,
Mitch
go
wants
ahead,
to
Mitch.
corroborate this and go, I think that it was a very clear attempt at controlling the poor child in a state of distress in order to force a decision.
So you both are dominate users, so you can go ahead and add your... You can go ahead and make both of you a charisma plus dominate check to describe how, you know the signs of dominate. You could tell.
3 successes.
3 successes, and I'm going to roll.
Messy 6, and that's appropriate because she's very fucking angry.
Yeah. Let me just attend to that. So, Sam rolled 7 successes, but between you and Mitch, you beat her. So, it's at this moment that, as you're describing exactly how she dominated her, your beast roils, bristles with superiority, and your compulsion kicks in. Morbidity. You must move something from life to death or vice versa. Any action not taken to end or resurrect something suffers a 2 dice penalty. The subject does not have to be a living thing. It can be an object or an abstract thing, such as an idea or a conversation point. And I'm going to give you the choice to basically decide. I'm going to say that the thing your beast decides it wants to kill, put to rest now, is Gabriel's position on the council.
Okay.
Ooh.
Mitch backing you up in that moment establishes some sort of solidarity, some sense of it. Your beast bristles with superiority and realizes it's going to end the career of Gabriel.
Quickly.
Yep.
Because I have terrible brain. Every point that might be useful that I know against Gabriel.
That basically all of this happened because Nadine made a mess, but also that he was conducting research with his child using a ghoul who was a very obvious quack psychiatrist to find out how to break through dominate. And at the end of that whole thing, that retainer was allowed to be passed into the care of the Tremere.
Oh man, I had completely
So he
forgotten
just
about
lost
him.
a lot of value. Also, I will
Yeah.
point out that despite his strict mother henning and surveillance of Nadine, this shit still happened. So at worst, that's incompetent. At least that's incompetence.
Yeah, he clearly doesn't care that much about Nadine and what she's up to if she's constantly doing this shit.
Sorry, just my 2 cents.
I will not place the child under the care of Sam Stokes, then, says the prince, and Sam obviously bristles at this. Instead, I think it best, perhaps, if Sam was to train her and raise her in a position of neutrality as consul, I believe it fitting that she be placed in the care of someone neutral as well, of a clan not tied to either the Camarilla or the Anarchs. And so, unless there are any objections, I will declare her a ward of the Hecata. You can't be serious, says Sam. The Hecata may not be part of the Cam, but they have their own agenda. And you're really going to place... And as you say this, the prince narrows her eyes, silencing both of you, and she looks at Sam and she says, "Are you questioning my decree, Samantha?" "Not at all," says Sam, deflated. "Let her go with Marion, then."
Marion nods once again deeply, and she says, "You weren't to be let down, my prince. And may I just say, on behalf of my clan, our interests are in the best. Our interest is the best for all kindred, I assure you. Unlike some people here." And she glances very pointedly at Gabriel.
"What of the children's parents, her family?" says the prince. if you are to be her guardian, surely you will need to handle such things. At this, Sam steps forwards and she says, I have infrastructure prepared for such eventualities, as you know, and I've already taken the initiative, assuming that the child will be placed in my care to handle such loose ends. Is that acceptable? Says the prince, deferring to Marion.
Have we been informed as to what said infrastructure is?
No, you have no
Okay.
idea, and nor do the rest of the coterie. They know that, like, Sam usually handles this, like, everything that's required to transition a fledgling from the living world into the world of a vampire, but she's never actually gone through the specifics of it. It's sort of just something she hand waves.
I haven't been apprised of said infrastructure in place. If I may be so bold, might we detail the specifics of this after the events tonight? And I would be honored if you would preside over negotiations.
No need, says Sam. I assumed the child will be placed in my care. I've made the order. It's been dealt with. Consider it a boon rendered to you.
Thank you, Samantha, she says through gritted teeth.
She peers down at Flick and smiles a sinister smile. Well, that is settled, says the prince, and more positively than I was expecting. I must admit, I was not looking forward to adjudicating the fate of this poor child tonight. But that leaves us with one last thing, the question of the night. Gabriel, you have failed on many accounts, but you've been a faithful primogen for decades, a fixture of this court, and, well, I'll quickly defer to all of you assembled here. Are there any further crimes of Gabriel's that I should be made aware of?
Are you familiar with one Carl Cryer?
Indeed. Was he not your retainer? She looks at Nadine. The key to some very valuable research that this behind Mitch Hawthorne smiles and says, currently in the hands of the Tremere, a neutral party, who are just waiting to weaponize his knowledge against the Cam, no doubt. We'll call it to a vote, then, says Aveline. Those who are in favour of Gabriel stepping down from his position, saying yay.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
Ooh.
She looks over at Bouncer and Tig. You are anarchs, but you are here tonight as guests of Elysium. You get a vote too.
I respect that, and thank you, so I'm going to vote nay. Tig says, shifting his glance over to Sam.
And Bouncer?
Thinking about stirring things, but thinking better of it, just like, I appreciate the chance, and I suppose nay for what little it does.
You both say nay. You peer over the crowd. You see the Toreador from before whispering excitedly to her compatriots. They think Gabriel should stay. They beat the shit out of a werewolf. They know what they're talking about.
We got street cred, alright.
Aveline.
These Toreador are wild.
Aveline smiles. She raises her hand and she says, your votes are heard. I now put it to the court in general. Yay or nay? There's silence for a moment. And then, from around the room, the chorus comes. Yay. Save for the Toreador, who overwhelmingly shout, Nay!
It's performance art.
Gabriel falters. He stammers for a moment, his mouth drops open, and behind you, Mitch Hawthorne purrs, vibrating with glee. His mouth twists into a smile. Yes, oh, I have waited for this. I declare Gabriel's position on the Primogen Council null and void, says Prince Aveline. The position shall be taken by Professor Hawthorne from this moment on. Gabriel raises his hand. My prince, She turns to him, narrows her eyes. Count yourself lucky that the only punishment that shall be leveled upon you or your child Nadine this night is the disgrace of this court. The Harpy and the rest of the envoys have argued successfully in your favor. I declare that the embrace of Flick is nothing that you should pay personally for. But I'm tired of mistakes, and I have no room on my Primogen Council for those who make them.
Val puts up her hand, not like in class, but kind of signifying a little bit. She has something to say. My prince, if I may.
I defer to the Harpy.
I have spent some of the evening conferring with the Malkavian amongst us, and I believe that there is some conflicting opinions about who should be the new Primogen.
She's right!
I believe they've come up with their own solution to this, and
She's right! Shouts one of the
heard.
Malkavians. She's right! We want Nadine! Nadine? Says the prince. Whatever for? She knows how to get under everyone's skin, and you'll take our clan seriously.
Mitch shoots the prince a glance of like, are you saying this shit? Of like, you can't seriously like be considering this.
I'm weary, says the prince. Go, Tig.
So Tig kind of leans over and puts his hand up like he's coughing and whispers to Bouncer a bit too loudly. I mean, if it's a choice between her and Cobra Commander over there, he says, looking at Hawthorne.
What is a Primogen if not a representative of the people?
We vote Nadine! Shouts one of the Toreador.
To be honest, as a Malkavian, I am ashamed that they think the face of our clan in the city should be someone who is so flagrant about their disregard for the court and its rules.
And nonetheless, we must call it to a vote, says the prince. I am weary. Those in favor of Nadine, yay or nay? Almost
One
the...
thing.
Yep.
Mitch taps into the cobweb.
Ooh.
Yeah. What does he do
And
with
he
the
can-
cobweb?
And he can transmit feelings to the cobweb, right?
He can. He sure can.
He's
To
going
influence
to
the
transmit...
entire clan, though, it's gonna require a roll.
Hope you got
Enough.
funny dice on you.
The point being that he wants them to feel this, like, basically the fear that Flick is feeling and the idea that it's Nadine's fault that this child is suffering.
Nice.
Alright, I will ask Mitch to go ahead, first rouse the blood, and then make me a charisma plus Auspex roll.
Do we roll that? Okay, the reroll doesn't work on the bot. I'm just rerolling using...
But it does.
Works for me.
The bot giveth and taketh, but do as you please.
It always gives me the same answer. I got a 3 for the reroll.
3. You close your eyes, assessing the cobweb. Dozens of voices whispering incoherently. a cacophony of madness, and you project upon them Flick's suffering, Flick's despair. 3 successes, you said?
Yes.
And I've got written down that Val had 5 successes before when she convinced the Malkavians to vote.
Oh, she had a critical 8 for that.
Yeah, critical 8. You
Now you're
open your
convinced.
eyes. You open
It
your
works
eyes.
both ways.
Peer over at the Malkavians, and for a brief moment you see them. You see them hang their heads, see them shudder as the suffering, the fear that Flick felt washes over them. But it's gone in an instant. One of them glimpses over at Valerie, raises a hand. Yay! Then another. Yay! Then another. Yay! There are only 2 left in the clan who don't vote. Behind you, you feel the air shift as Hawthorne clenches his fists. His foot starts tapping impatiently on the polished floor, and it's obvious to you that he's holding back a frenzy. He opens his mouth and snarls. Arrgh! Nadine Brandt, then, says the prince. The new Primogen. But I'll throw a bone to Professor Hawthorne. We are aware that most of this is because of Nadine's mess, and while I am a prince who listens to her subjects, part of me questions just how long Nadine will go before she messes up again. So there shall be 2 Malkavian Primogen. She smiles. Nadine and Professor Hawthorne.
Well,
You both
they, screw
answer
you.
to me. Aye, says Hawthorne. Aye. He clenches his fist.
Mitch kind of starts trying to like subtly calm him down. Like it's fine. It's fine. We can
Not.
recover. We always do.
I can smell the Venture in the corner going, what, they get 2? Wait, well, why don't we get 2?
We should get 5.
Not ideal. Not ideal at all, but I accept it, my prince. Good, says Prince Aveline. That concludes tonight's pleasantries. Well, unpleasantries, I shall say. Let the festivities resume. Drink, make merry, enjoy your night. She smiles as she turns away. Her Primogen, including her 2 new Primogen, gathering around her. The entire hall instantly erupting in a buzz of excited gossip. Well, says Sam, shrugging. I suppose that's a compromise I can accept. Gabriel is ousted, yet Nadine remains. A good move by the prince, and certainly not what Andrea was expecting. She smiles. This has been a long night, and it's barely begun. Go, have your drinks, socialize. We'll discuss the implications of this at a later date. But remember, at the end of the day, who you are loyal to. And let no talk of eroding control be spoken in front of me. For I am the one who made you what you are tonight. Before we end this session, I'm going to say that later in the night, as everyone is getting into the swing of Elysium, as the coterie is, for once, living it up. Even the anarchs are commanding the attention of the hall. Vampires hanging on their every word as Bouncer and Tig recount the fraught chase with the lupine. When
No shit, there we were. And then
When Marion's phone vibrates, she fishes it out of her pocket, and her heart sinks. She recognizes the number on the screen. It's her father's nurse, and at this time of night, you open the message. It simply reads, "He's not gonna make it. Come to the hospital. He wants to see you."
Yeah, she's gone without a word.
You all look around. You don't notice quite when Marion disappears, but when she leaves, she makes no fanfare. She doesn't even take Flick with her, instead leaving Flick with Tig to at least enjoy some positive attention, to get some fun out of this party.
oh, yeah.
Marion. The harsh fluorescent lights of G-Town General bear down upon you as you hurry down the hallway, making your way towards room 303, where you're told your father has been placed in hospice. You push the door open. The first thing you see is Nurse, her face white, her every wrinkle outlined with worry. You peer over at your father, and he's not hooked up to the oxygenator. He's not wearing a mask. He's sitting upright in bed, his face flushed with colour, beaming, positively smiling at you. "Marion!" he says, calling out. "False alarm, love! False alarm!
Oh my
I
god.
hope I didn't work you up."
Just a bit.
"It was not a false alarm," says the nurse. He was starting to flatline, starting to go in cardiac arrest. We called the ambulance. They only managed to revive him. He wasn't expected to make it through the night, but ha ha! Our old family name still commands some attention, says your father. Soon as they heard Gerald Dunson was in the hospital, they got this chappie, Dr. Giovanni. Dr. Giovanni was here. Said he was going to care for me himself. Said he was going to give me the best medicine. And what do you know? Whole thing was a false alarm.
Oh, that's wonderful, she says, now very, very concerned. I'd like to thank this Dr. Giovanni. Is he still around?
He's gone home for the night, but tell you what, when he comes in to check me out of here tomorrow morning, I'll tell him, I'll say my daughter wants to thank you from the bottom of her heart.
You know what? I'll be there tomorrow. No, I won't be able to make that. But please, give him my number.
Oh? You really? Well, I suppose he did save my life, and he says I've got a very few more years in me yet.
Oh, that's wonderful news.
Tell you, as soon as they saw the name, as soon as they saw Dunson, they recognized it, and they knew, my daughter, they know who you are, they know you have the business world at your fingertips, and they know me, and your grandfather, and how we used to run this town, the wool barons, and... Well, it's good to know that even in my old age, even when I'm a blibbering old mess, that someone remembers who I was.
Oh, I'm sure plenty of people remember you.
And they will for years to come yet! His nurse looks at you, clear concern on her face, and she says, Miss Dunson, I swear, he flatlined in the ambulance, and this doctor, but whatever he's done, it's a miracle, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry I scared you. Evidently it was a false alarm, but... Well, I thought he wasn't gonna make it. I suppose we should just be glad that whatever's up there looking down on us has given your dad a new lease on life, at least for now.
And quickly, is he still hooked up to any medical equipment? Heart rate
He's
monitor?
not. He's
EEG?
not. Well, he's hooked up to an EEG that's monitoring his heart rate, and it seems quite normal.
Okay, he's got a heart rate.
Yeah, it's going beep, beep, beep. And your first concern that he did die tonight is dispelled. But then you look at his face, his beaming smile, his cheeks flushed with colour, as he reaches out his hands and says, "Oh, Marion, you came running, you dropped what you were doing. I'm so sorry. I don't want you to worry about me, love, but I really appreciate that I mean that much to you. Come, give your old dad a hug."
She gives him a very warm embrace.
We will end the session there, with the course of the city irrevocably being changed tonight, and more unseen agents working behind the scenes, slowly trying to turn the chaos in their favor. You each receive 5 experience points. And may you spend them wisely, for you will need them. Going into the next story that will center on Marion, simply titled Blood Debt.